Mr. Gazzola, Superintendent, Sandy, you got anything else? Any people? Ellen? Sue?
I'm on.
Ally?
Is that
Gary?
Was that Gary?
Yeah, I'm on.
You got everything? Perfect. All right, I'd like to make a motion for approval of the agenda.
So moved.
All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Let's make a motion for approval of the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Excellent. Passed. Public participation. Anybody on the line?
No, there is not.
Okay. Skip section 5. Discussion and next steps. Technology. Al, you're up.
Alrighty, so we have the wrong slide there. Fantastic. There we go. So last month, I promised you some updates on our device protection program. So this is as current as of 9/29. So in purple, you see number of students by building. In green, the students or parents who elected coverage. And in red, the numbers of parents who have paid so far. We have had some communication from parents saying, hey, can we just get a little bit more time? So we're going to extend the window to allow payment on those coverage plans till the end of this month before we cut it off. So I will work with our principals to send out another notification, please pay as soon as possible, because starting October 31st, we will shut down this window. Payments are able to be made through check, cash, and online, and all three services have been utilized. So as of today, we have $17,332.90 in the account for device coverage. So pretty impressive. So I think we're getting there.
And that represents all the little red lines?
Yes,
right? And
those are all the little, those are all the little red lines.
Oh, so
we've collected a lot more then. We're double that number now, probably.
Probably because, so that was as of 9/29, this is as of today, so.
Yeah, that's
at
at least double.
one.
Yeah, that's at least double the number of
Yeah.
people.
Definitely. So good amount, we're getting there in payments. We had to go through a separate account, that's all been done, so now we're able to accept the payments and they're coming steady.
Sure.
So very, very happy to see that.
Helpful.
So
Have we had any claims yet? Anything lost? Knock on wood.
No.
Well, we are a month in.
I guess there's a follow-up question then. What are we doing if they have not paid but elected? And now that somebody asked the question, so now I've got to ask.
I would probably extend that courtesy. I don't know how the board would feel about that, but I think because it's new to a lot of
People.
So
The district.
I would probably, if we have to promise to pay, I would probably, they can't change their answer at this point. They've promised to pay. And so I would probably extend the courtesy to, okay, give us the $25 and we'll cover it.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ellie.
Could we just do a deadline, like?
Yes, we will.
By whatever date, and after that date, we will not honor.
Right,
before.
okay.
You revert back on
Yes.
Yeah.
Halloween or whatever.
Exactly. Halloween is the absolute cutoff date. And after that, then this is what it is.
And I guess if they've elected to pay for it and it happens before Halloween, we will only cover if you make your payment.
Yes.
Because you've already, maybe that's the way to do it.
Then we have social media update. It seems to be that our superintendent's always getting the highest hits in terms of likes and forwards. So we those are the two greatest liked Facebook posts and shared and commented. So certainly superintendent's making the rounds to all the buildings, and it's definitely being loved and appreciated by the community. So I wanted to give you a little comparison. For example, so last month our Facebook reach was at 4,600. Now this month we've improved to 5,700. And at the bottom you'll see the page visits for our Facebook page. That's gone down because people now they've reached our page, they've subscribed, and now they see the feed. So I think that's a step in the right direction. We're still working on also the other platforms and getting Instagram on board. We're not quite there yet, but hopefully by next month we'll have that as well. I'll give you an update on Parent Square. Parent Square being well utilized in the buildings, and I think from parents we've received really nice feedback because they're able to get information that's really just tailored to them. So most schools you'll see they look at Torrington for 244 posts, 152 alone this month, which is quite amazing. So they're really engaged, and you'll see Forbes, they're still a little bit low, so we had a bit of a late start, but we're working with them to also get going. And then I know Sandy had mentioned something about yesterday. So
yes.
There's a post from Southwest that went out about Hispanic Heritage Celebration, and we sent out some videos and pictures, and a lot of people really took to that and they loved it. That's it for that. And one other thing on the agenda was the Chromebook life cycle. So every time we purchase a Chromebook, it's good for 5 years. Not driven by the hardware that we purchase, but by the license. After 5 years, Google says that license is no longer good because they will no longer be able to promise that it will function as designed, because in 5 years, they declare it as obsolete. At that point, we have to pull it out of circulation because the state, if we use it for state testing, no longer supports it if it's out of Google support. So as we had it with the year of COVID and after COVID, where we would purchase these massive amounts of Chromebooks, we want to get away from this up, down, up, down. So the plan is to build X amount of Chromebooks into the budget every year so that we pretty much stay even and we don't run into a 5-year pitfall.
There's some good news on that to share. Google just recently changed their policy on this.
Oh, good.
So
Google.
I sent an email. The Google policy was exactly as you described until about 30 days ago. Any Chromebook that was introduced, or we'll say released after 2021 or 2021 and later, is now automatically eligible for 10 years.
Nice.
So that will help. Any device that is in that prior window can now be extended for a nominal fee. Now, to the rest of the board, doesn't mean we can run them all for 10 years.
No, probably not.
They're going to get beat up. There's going to be reasons to replace some of them, but we're not faced with the capital expense of replacing the entire fleet.
Exactly.
Ally can adjust her plans a bit to replace less of them now so that we can.
That's definitely good news. A license is $35, so it's probably less than that.
It'll be less than that.
And
Yeah.
we'll be able to still use it.
I'll forward you the link.
Chromebooks have gotten a lot faster in the last couple of years than not as, the hardware is certainly isn't aging as fast anymore as it was back then. So having that license keep being in compliance with the state, then it's a beautiful thing.
We would definitely won't get 10 years out of all of them.
I don't think so.
But being able to get 7 full school years and buying some of them a little bit cheaper when they're a year old that you never wanted to do before because now you only had 4 years left. So there's a lot of advantages for IT in that. I'll send you the link.
Thank you. That's all.
Do we know, I gotta ask a question myself. Do you know the total number of Chromebooks we have? Or would you mind, maybe we put that on carry it over for next meeting?
Sure, absolutely. I will get that for you.
Statistics as the total number and which ones are gonna run out.
Absolutely. I can give you the life cycle of what we have, and then I will use your information, and I'm going to bake that in, and which ones would be suitable to be extended.
Okay.
And then which ones we should look at for this budget year to replace,
Absolutely.
yeah, which you know. Yeah.
And carry a percentage, Ally, for like, hey, they're beat up beyond.
Oh yeah.
10% of these aren't going to make it anyways.
Yes. That.
So we'll just add that to next month. Is that okay? Okay. Anything else? Does anybody have any other questions on technology? No? Okay, moving on. Go for facilities. First, like to welcome Mr. Pagola.
Welcome.
Facility and
Welcome.
Technology Meeting. Nice to have you. Need our phones during the meeting.
That's all right. It happens.
Thank you.
That's all
Perfect
right.
timing for a
Yeah.
daughter to come.
Yeah.
Welcome, Dean. Nice to have you.
Thanks, Matt.
Scott, I guess you're gonna help.
Yes,
with
of
this
course.
So far, so our first topic is the TMS roof project.
Yeah, if we could
We're
just wait,
waiting for,
we could just wait 1 second till Marissa gets back.
oh,
Because I'm having her print something out that I thought everybody, we're probably gonna be talking about it, so everybody should probably have a copy of it, so I apologize.
It's all right.
Thank you, Liz. No, they can,
Take one and pass it on.
yes, please, take one and pass it on. Because I think this is the last agenda item, so. Sure, so the TMS roof project, everything's signed and ready to go. I spoke to Gail late last week and wanted to set up a meeting. I asked them just to hold on for a week because we have the new director of facilities starting on the 16th. So once Dean starts, we'll call up and we'll get a meeting together and start moving forward. But the everything's signed, so we could move ahead.
We were waiting for our legal team, excuse me if you don't mind.
yep, no.
We were waiting for our legal team, remember it was back and forth, we just wanted to make sure we were protected.
Yep.
So Scott and I sent it to legal, our legal vetted everything, we're all good. Contract's been initiated in terms of a signature, that's where that was the last kind of hold up at the last meeting, we were waiting for legal to just finalize it, but it has all been finalized.
Okay.
And the outline for the building capacity, so everybody has that. So I didn't know
Oh, we
what I
did
was.
get it emailed, the one that were, the breakdown, yeah, we got it last week.
After the last meeting.
Oh,
Yeah, it came right after.
So I didn't know if I was supposed to do anything with that or
What do
not.
we want to do with that? Like, what was our whole reason for getting it was to have a plan.
It was, I think, more to have a plan, come up with perhaps a subcommittee to just look at that, which I think, Fiona, you did the last time.
Yeah.
You had to look at the sister schools and all that. So I think it was more just save us 6 months worth of work off the top because that study was already done, and then figure out what we were going to do with it. I don't know where it fits, though.
That was my recollection. It was, we
In
just wanted
here?
to make sure, because at the time, Glenn, you're right, we didn't have it, so we didn't know if we could locate it. Fiona was pretty certain that we had it. Scott did some great
Digging.
job digging. We cleared the dust off of it, digitized it, scanned it, and sent it. So we put it on just as a placeholder, if I
Yep.
recall from last meeting.
Yeah.
I think it was Jeff's idea to say, put it on just in case we'd have,
And
but
let's
as soon as
carry
that
it.
collected is correct,
Mhm.
that we were gonna bring it to subcommittee to have just our ducks in a row.
Okay.
Because that was the only one we couldn't check off of this committee, remember?
Yeah, when is the
guys punted a
appropriate
lot.
time to
Yeah.
That
actually
was really
start
just
that
square footage
process?
of buildings,
That-
correct?
Oh,
Yeah.
the
Right.
current.
It's with buildings and
What, how many
and-
rooms, bathrooms?
Because like, what can they be used for? is what
Right.
We need to figure out,
Right.
because the lower grades have different requirements.
Good
Some
recollection. That's
buildings
exactly how I
need to be
remember.
used
Great,
for-
pretty much.
Pre-K.
So when are we forming this
Talking about it
subcommittee?
forever.
So that's really the
Explore.
decision. Does the facilities committee want to take on the part of looking at the buildings to determine what they could be used for? And then pass it to the subcommittee, an ad hoc committee to
I really think
determine.
that's really dependent on student population, what we decide to do with
moving people around, correct? That's really gonna be your decision, how you wanna structure this.
Correct. I think.
What comes first?
Well, I mean, in terms of, just in terms of pure building discussions, right?
Yep.
We have now that room breakout, we have the actual square footage total. And then we can certainly put our recommendation together and bring it forth to the facilities committee before passing it on to the ad hoc committee, if you think that's appropriate. I think that is a great lens to look at it. I think the
Yeah.
facilities would just have to kind of hear our rationale behind that, and then moving into the ad hoc, I think just would help expedite the process as well. We can have that ready for the next meeting.
Yeah,
That's
you get
not
a month to
problem.
work on it, kind of come up with a general plan.
Right.
Not a problem.
Even if you do that, do we need an ad hoc from there? I mean, maybe we do, once we look at it, but if you're gonna do that legwork here in central office and then bring it to facilities, and maybe we call a special facilities meeting for like full board type of, just to review it and walk through, I don't know, maybe we don't need, because my thought was the ad hoc would be doing what you're offering to do, which it makes perfect sense for it to come from here, because what do we know about the use of the buildings? You know,
I think part of it is the logistics of it all. So once it's determined, you know, like we learned a lot in the other ad hoc, such as that we can't just throw things out. Yeah, so there was a lot of logistical stuff that had to go into like, okay, so if this is the plan, how is that actually going to happen?
Okay, so from
where does
there,
everything
get,
go?
all right,
Right.
an ad hoc to really put the wheels in motion.
Right.
Yeah, we give what we think, and then the
Okay,
cleanup piece
gotcha.
comes to the.
There was a tremendous number of meetings and just figuring out
Yeah.
logistics, the busing, and there's so many decisions that will come from this. The first piece is how do you think it's going to look, and then piece the rest of it. That's what we did with the sister school projects.
There's something to be said for the involvement of people who aren't Board of Education members there too.
Right.
You know, anytime we're gonna be changing up where people send their kids to school, we want them involved before we tell them, here's what we're imposing on.
Plus the staff in the buildings had a lot of great insight that the board doesn't have
Sure,
as far
right.
as how this actually looks inside
Bet.
of school.
We had, what, 25 people? on
There was
that
great
committee?
representation the last time we did this,
Right, right.
across
And then
different
I should say
stakeholders.
recommendation, not
Yes.
mandate. It's all gonna be our recommendation.
And then within the ad hoc, there's
Very well
committees
said.
Okay,
The
that
super,
specifically.
Super said.
Certain things that they work.
Focused on.
Focused on and then come together. And,
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Great.
it's a huge undertaking.
yeah,
if I remember, the superintendent came with a general outline. Hey, this is what we think educationally would make the most sense. And then the ad hoc started looking at how can we accomplish this. I think we started with, we're going to go to this number of schools. We're going to allocate these grades together. And then the ad hoc kind of, with all the different community members, figured out, well, this is how we could do it. And then I came up with some crazy ideas, and everybody else would say, this is crazy, do this instead. We worked as a great group to come to some reasonable assumptions. And then, do you recall that?
Yeah.
There were
I
some
think that's
good
appropriate.
ideas.
And there were
Some
options
didn't
on the
work,
table.
some,
Yeah,
right,
there was
right.
options.
There
There were some
options.
bad ones too that I may have thrown out there.
And there was things that came up that we had
There were some
no
bad ones.
idea were going to be a barrier, right? So
This whole thing, this is like implementation for September 2025, right?
Correct.
That's what we're looking at.
Well,
because the middle school is going to be delayed, so the high school is going to open first. So it's really going to be when that middle school moves up.
yeah, the high
The
school.
middle school moves up September.
September 2025 is the current. Yeah, high school is
High
January,
school is January.
Yeah,
and they're still tracking towards middle school.
Right,
if we stay on that time.
right.
Which we're hopeful. I
Yeah.
mean, we were there today. I mean, it looks pretty good. So.
But even if we
But it's-
don't, you still need the plan.
Right, right, but the most impact would be when the middle school moves.
Moves, that
You know,
September.
When the high school moves,
right.
it's not
Everybody goes
so
into a new
much.
place
Right, right.
at that point,
Does
yeah.
anybody know when the busing contract is over? Because it will play a huge role in this.
Yeah, I mean, and part of it too is that we can't just leave an educational facility open. So we
Right.
have to determine
Right.
Where everybody's going
and what we're doing with the buildings. If
Right.
we are going to still need all the buildings, if we're not, you know, it's raised some heightened concern from people because there was an article in the paper about a study the city's doing about Forbes, and, you know, the Board of Ed has not made any decision on Forbes yet.
Mhm.
So I'm not really sure what that is about, but, you know, that's what this whole committee is going to decide. And until we turn the building over, the building is under the purview of the Board of Education.
Plus
So,
looking at what's coming ahead also with the state, with the
might be mandated preschool, so
Mhm.
we have to really look at that too.
Just had that conversation
To
earlier
have the
today.
room.
Additional special education programs we can offer that maybe we can use for,
Right,
you know,
right.
to attract
Bring
other
back
districts.
in-house,
And
yeah.
there's all kinds of options.
Yeah.
I would love to.
Talking about it.
Yeah,
So it's certainly not safe to say that any decisions have been made.
No,
Right.
100%.
Everything's
even
still on, yeah,
close.
everything's
No.
still on the table.
yeah.
Okay, keep this moving. So action item, Fiona, is let's start creative subcommittee. Right,
Well, first,
I'll bring to
she'll
the,
bring next month.
let's start
to
putting
you
it together
guys.
and
Yeah.
next month, figure out how we're gonna structure the subcommittee, and then next month, let's first draft. Fair enough?
sounds good.
Great.
Any other questions? No? All right, where are we next? Excellent. Ooh, that was a tough one. HVAC mandate update.
Yeah, I kind of don't have an update on that, but I do have an update with our new director of facilities has expertise in the HVAC. So
So we're all set.
I figured with my limited knowledge on the subject, it would be better to wait a week or two till he started,
Probably
so.
have to give Dean some more time to get caught up on the whole state thing, unless you know more about it from tech or anything, or figure out what their mandates
It's
are,
a-
these requirements that
It's a
are.
new HVAC mandate from the state of Connecticut.
details.
Yeah.
Aware of it. not
I can
I-
just add
That's,
one
that's
quick-
our big item, ticket item
Is there a?
coming down the pike, because we don't have the money, we don't have the funding for it.
Right.
And the question is, I think, Ed, you said they moved it to January?
It moves it's a constantly moving goalpost because everyone's upset about it and there's no money.
Mhm.
There's no contractors.
Right, there's no contractors now. My understanding, although you could tell me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is there is money now.
To say they opened up more funds.
Right, they fixed the structure of that grant program and the money still exists, so you can, in theory, get it, but I don't know if any of it's actually been dispersed or anything like that. So the money problem is partly solved, I suppose. But it's still a moving target because it's a logistical nightmare that the state has put in front of us.
So once you get on board, maybe looking at that new legislation?
Are they offering any analysis of buildings?
Yeah, so what, I'm sorry if I.
No, go ahead, Mr. Wilson.
So, yeah, so one of the things we have with Dean coming on is he's gonna work closely with our grant writer, in addition to working with Scott. To what you said, the moving target would kind of sort of, I liked your analogy, in theory is there. So the grant opportunity is there, and they're very specific. So Donna is the wizard at that. The specs on the HVAC is where your expertise will come in. To Fiona's point, there are very few contractors in the state that can handle this scope of work. However, and that's why I believe Scott was sharing, waiting for you to come on board with your expertise. I think there's going to be ways when you look at it that maybe we can handle, and maybe things that you're going to say that just can't be done. But we're going to have you meet with Donna for the grant purposes anyway, because we can't afford it, as Sue had mentioned. No district can. But I think having that meeting from a grant perspective, but then having your expertise reading the specifics of maybe we can do this area by doing this, because you have that intricate knowledge that Scott and I just don't have in that field. However, the grant piece will be covered for you from our grant writer. It's just those really nuts and bolts of what it means and what we could do and how we handle it and move forward. So the fear is the work piece, not really the grant piece, but the work piece is going to be a big fear. And once you look at that scope of work, if you're like, hey, we can do it, let's dive in, Donna can work with you on getting that pretty quickly. That won't be our hang up. Our hang up is the
Are
work.
they putting a deadline on this yet?
January,
January to initiate?
the grant, not to start the
To
work.
apply.
Yeah.
Originally, the mandate was that everything had to be done by the end of this year.
That's what I'm asking. Was there an end date?
It was,
Well, I think
it
I
was
went-
crazy.
I went to a meeting last Friday and the subject came up, so I think that's a moving target right now. They do have that date is being bandied about, but I think that might move based on not having vendors to do it. And to add to your point, I think the money is there now because that was big on everybody's mind too. What wasn't was, as I asked them for a vendor listing or something, and, they didn't have one, so.
Crickets.
Exactly, so, we did ask the question, but, so I think we'll be fine when Dean comes on board, so I think we sort of have a plan and
Alright,
we'll tackle it.
More details.
Yeah, from what I understand too, it's not just related to HVAC and balanced air systems and CFMs. There's also a mold and lead
Air
paint
quality.
component of it. So there's really, and that's outside the majority of the HVAC guys. They're not gonna do that kind of testing. There's an acronym that I looked up, I forgot what it was, but should have somebody for that, the mold and lead testing, whoever that is. So there's really two components of it. If anybody, does anybody know, or can we acquire whatever this statute number or mandate number was, and get that to Dean so we can kind of help him find who's one
I'll
more?
send it to you.
Yeah.
You can send it to him.
Yeah, we'll find
Dean's
it. We
email
have
is
it
up now,
somewhere.
but
Oh, it is,
absolutely, by
okay.
all means, send it to me and I'll forward it to, yeah, but just so this committee knows as well, Dean's email is operational,
Yeah.
but yes,
Oh,
thank
okay.
you, Fiona, I can forward that to you.
Yeah, speaking of that too, there was a voicemail that was on there. I was punching around about a asbestos.
Yes, we're all set with that.
Oh,
We'll
okay.
talk about it Monday.
Okay.
Dean's Monday will be very long.
Like getting your feet
Yeah,
wet.
Dean, hunker in on Monday.
No, every 3 years, we have to have it done.
Your lunch and
We're up,
dinner.
so we just have to
Oh, no, he's
schedule. I thought it would be a great opportunity because they need somebody to walk the schools.
Yeah.
So I thought it'd be a great opportunity
Yeah.
for you, and, I'll come too, and we'll walk through all the schools, so you'll get a feel for every square foot of the schools. 'Cause, so we'll talk Monday.
So do we want to carry that one to next month as well? Just kind of get an update and.
I think that should be
Yeah.
almost a standing one until we.
Right,
Until
that with the
I mean, that would be just
facilities,
my recommendation.
Yeah,
so-
okay.
until it's done.
I agree.
Until there's a real target.
Yeah.
Until it's,
And real money.
until we sign.
Right.
Yeah.
No money's real until you have it. That's
Right.
correct.
All right, any other questions on that? No. Okay. Update capital improvement list.
Yeah, so I think this is what I just passed out, and if it's not, let me know. So if we look at the first item, the replace existing window coverings for Vogel Wetmore, BCI Bartholomew Company was out there actually today, and they're also at Vogel for the Carpet Media Center, and Vogel has some window treatments too. So they're that state-approved vendor that worked for us before, but he's gonna give me price on all that, and we'll see where that lands. To replace the fire alarm systems, the 380, I'm in the process of creating an RFP now, and I'll bring Dean on it next week, because I'm not gonna have it completed this week, but it is started, and we'll put that out for bid.
Is that new?
I don't remember that one.
New, I don't think so, but I'll check.
I've-
I mean, not new as something, it's been in the plan for a while. I
It
could-
has, the fire, okay.
Yeah, I could get more detail on it.
No,
That's-
don't worry, no, that's
that's
fine.
the-
I just
yeah.
feel like that would stick out in my head.
No, it's out of end of life, and it's one of those proprietary systems that's
And
just
it
giving us
was in
trouble all
our
the time.
capital plan for this year?
Yes, I believe so. I'll check.
I think I remember.
Okay.
It was
Actually,
originally.
It was
the
not
one we-
originally, but
The
then,
one we originally submitted, but we didn't get approved for that, so it's getting moved into the East School funding.
okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you, Fiona.
Okay.
The emergency lighting upgrade, I just have to get an electrician over there. We don't think it's gonna be $20,000, but I have to get an electrician over there to give us a quote on that. And if it's over the $10,000 mark, we'll create a RFP for that. Southwest is the same as the first one, so I had him go over there today also, and he'll give us a quote on that. West State was, we need the gas emergency shutoff. So West State was out there last week. I expect a quote by the end of the week. They work with an electrician because the electrician has to come and wire it up, and West State comes and does the mechanical part and actually changing the valve. So we'll coordinate that, and I think that's going to be under $10,000. Also, based on my preliminary discussions with them, and I'll adjust accordingly. So the next two items are the two hot water heaters on the first and third floor. So I thought about these, and again, so we don't know what's going to happen to the Ford School in the next couple of years. So these are water heaters. If they're gonna go, they're gonna go. I don't know if anybody's ever had their water heater go in their house, but we know they could go at any time. So my thought behind this is that instead of replacing these now, we see if we could limp along with these because they are working. And then if something happens to one of them, we could repair them on an emergency basis, which we would have to do if they weren't on the plan anyway. And maybe we could reallocate that $30,000 to something else if the board is okay with that.
Do they have an emergency, like a water flow shut off if it starts to leak and it blows?
I doubt it.
It's a lot of water going all over the place. We have a bigger problem.
Say, I would like to defer that to our new facilities guy,
Yeah.
since he does have a lot of plumbing experience. I would be concerned about the third floor. I mean, if that one goes, then it's now we got water damage all over there,
Okay, no,
potentially.
fair enough.
Are these tank type, how many gallons are these? Yeah.
Monday.
The building's huge,
Put it
so.
on the list for
Put on the
Monday.
list for Monday.
Yeah.
That'll be the 11:59.
Was that a trick question?
I'm not sure what type of safety devices are installed too. There are sometimes you can put safety flow devices
Yeah,
that
that's
will
what I
shut it
meant.
off.
Shut it off.
Probably not there.
Right.
Probably not.
Maybe
How
we
old
can-
is this?
Maybe
Yeah,
get an
before
update
school.
next month.
They're old.
Yeah, so.
So let's, Dean, you take, can you mind taking those two items and give us your best assessment is what we should do?
Right now?
No,
next
No.
one, next month.
For next month. For next
On
month.
next month.
Yes, Dean, can you go over there now? and-
It is down the road.
By the end of the budget committee meeting.
We got an hour and a half.
It's just down the road.
We want the guy to stay glad.
Thanks, Scott, keep going.
Yep, just let me make that note. The exit signs on Vogel Wetmore. Okay, well, we know that the city didn't, I'm sorry, I should have predicated this by, this is the list that the city approved, with the exception of the rebuild original front entrance.
I thought-
That's the one that
Only Chris
gentleman on the
Bias,
committee,
but
excuse me?
Only Chris Bias was opposed to it.
Okay, I thought they, okay, then that's great.
Yeah, so because him and I discussed it, I guess.
Do they have line item veto
Okay.
on our capital budget?
No,
No.
So
No,
it's
that's
just
great
a
because
dollar amount.
yeah, no, so that's in.
I've
That-
actually told Michael, I think I have a picture somewhere, when I went to Forbes, like it is falling
Yeah, and one lawsuit. was
apart.
gonna cost
Exactly,
us a
so
lot
that
more
was
than
my,
that.
Yeah, we'll get someone out.
okay, so good. So I haven't done anything with that because I thought it was off the table, but I'll get back on that one. In contact, I think we have a couple vendors, so I'll call on that and I'll have them give me a price, and then again, if it's a big dollar item, we'll obviously go out to bid on that.
I'll go back and listen to the meeting again, but I was pretty positive they just voted the bundle of the 750, and he was just opposing his opposition to that.
Okay.
But I'll listen
I'll
to
check it
again
too, but
tonight.
thank you. The exit signs, again, I have to get an electrician over there to give me a preliminary quote. I've already spoken, Sammy hasn't had an opportunity to get there. That's gonna be one that's gonna be a big dollar item. That was for the analysis that was done by that engineering firm. And then we'll work on that one. The Carpet Media Center, again, he was there today. This is with the window treatments. And he'll give us a quote on that. Mechanical Engineering Heating Project Development. My note on that is HVAC, do new director of facilities. So
Right.
we'll talk
Put a note
we'll
on
talk
that.
with Dean on that one.
Monday,
I don't have an update on that one.
Three.
The replace water heater vent piping in the kitchen, the vent kitchen grease traps are with West State Mechanical. They're actually there today, I believe, based on my conversation with Fran, so I should be getting a quote on those. Again, we don't think the grease traps are gonna be in the $30,000 range, but, obviously if they are.
I thought those
we'll
were
send them
done.
out.
I think he said those were done.
I think,
John, that
John,
day,
I
that
thought-
night we called
John
John,
told
said
us
those
that
were
those were
done.
done.
yeah.
I
They're
think
not.
that might
Unless it
have
was
been, no, I
starting
think
board.
that might have been something else, but I will,
Grease traps maybe at another school, but it was definitely grease traps
Yeah, because they did it themselves.
because of the danger, the risk of
We've
fire.
had it on there multiple times, I think, and it's only
So
here
is it
once.
a
so I think
different
it may have been
building?
Another building. It's worth double checking. But
oh, no, I'll definitely
Yeah, double check it. It could
Absolutely.
have been, but I know we talked to him about grease
traps.
traps and they were done as soon as it was identified, I thought.
Yeah, I remember that conversation.
Nope, I remember that conversation. The exit sign also, I do have an electrician going over there. He just hasn't gotten back to me yet. The exterior window control joint cost repair. So I have to call Burlington Construction. Again, we don't think it's going to be 30,000. He's just going to have to go there and see how many windows there are that need to be done, and then give us a price. So the engineering and they installed a locked foyer for Southwest. I talked to Calvert and Plymouth Glass via Joe Alicata, who's our architect, I guess, or engineer architect. So we're going to move on with that again. We don't think that's going to be 95,000. I also spoke to John Barlow on that. Seems to think that's a kind of a simple, not, I don't want to use the term simple, but an easy fix. So it might be a lot cheaper than 95,000. And
Just hold up one second. Can I
Sure.
ask a question?
What would the architectural cost, because we don't have an architect per se, so if the costs were over the 10,000, we would have to put that out to bid?
yes, I think so.
Yeah, oh, I thought you said Joe Alicata was doing it.
Well,
I
he's
misunderstood
gonna
you.
give us a price and get us a price for the whole thing. So I spoke to Joe to write it up, right? Because that's the first step of the process. And it's gonna be Burlington and, Plymouth Glass and Calvert, because John Barlow had already spoken to them about it. So Joe's gonna put the blueprints together, I guess, so we're gonna have to pay him a fee, which is gonna be under $10,000. So we wouldn't have to go out to RFP for that. And then once he comes up with it and we get a price for the whole project, then we might have to go out for RFP to the subcontractor.
How did we land on Plymouth Glass and, you don't know, I'm asking you questions you may not.
Well, that's how we've used them in the past, so.
That's how it went.
But it'll go out because the engineering part will be under 10 grand, but then the rest of it, you gotta cut in a hole in that concrete wall, the brick walls. So that part will go out.
My thought was also, as Calvert and Plymouth has also done work for us before, and we like their work, so I'm hoping they could give us a price. And then again, if it's well above it, then it goes out to, we RFP it, but I don't think it's gonna hurt.
Sure.
To give them a call and get them out there. So that was kind of my plan of attack on that one.
Can I say something? It's scary. Why don't we get 3 quotes? The glass guys are hungry right now. But I thought we had to get, if no matter what, I think we should get 3 quotes. And they're hungry right now. But also, do we have a contract with Alicata? You said he's our architect, but I don't. Do we have a contract with him?
Do we have a contract
Can you
with
hear
them?
me or no?
Yeah, I was just relaying your question.
Alicata.
We have a question with our
We do not.
No, Fiona said.
This Joe guy he's
No.
he's our architect.
I know he's been around forever, but
Architect, he's
no,
done-
that's something else we should be looking at.
he's
Hold
done
on,
work for the
Gary.
district before.
Oh, I'm sorry.
They were talking, that's okay, what'd you say?
I said, you know, it wouldn't hurt for us to go out, and I guess when Dean gets on, to get some other competitive quotes, at least for architectural services. It just seems like he's been around forever. I'm not saying he's good or bad, but we should also be pricing that, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. That's all.
Agreed.
But I mean, this glass guy's out there right now. They're hungry for work. So, in nearby Watertown and Plainville and Southington, you know, I can send along the names to whoever's going to send out quotes.
Yep. Thank you, Gary. Absolutely.
Yep.
I just have a question. I don't recall, but I know John had presented to us, but the small scope of work of what these locked foyers are supposed to be. Do we know what we want? Do we have a punch list of stuff that we want for this locked foyer? Or are we just putting up a glass wall with a locked door? Are there other things that we want as far as the secure foyer?
Yeah.
Probably have
I
to.
think it's a great question that we should have answered in an executive session.
Because it's
Security related.
Yeah, I'm not trying to put you off, I just, I don't
Okay.
necessarily want to have that discussion.
Yeah, right.
Okay. I'm just worried about, like, we're going to this architect that he's telling us what we want, but maybe we should be presenting to him what we want, as far as what should be included in there, so he can do his plans and his design and specs and scope of work appropriately, so that if it does have to go out to bid, all that legwork is done.
As a follow-up, so we've completed a couple of these projects, I think, right, at this point?
Yeah.
So I'm saying, so maybe something to consider if we're gonna, for the administration's perspective, if we're gonna talk about it in the executive session, would be, are we satisfied completely with the work that's been done on the ones that have happened so far? Are there things we would change that are within the budget, so that when we bring it up in our discussion, we can be focused on the question that we're trying to answer? That's all.
Okay.
So what are we gonna?
Do you need an executive session for that? To talk about it, or you want to wait until you have more information?
Why don't we wait until we have more information until next month's meeting, and then we could have an executive
Got it.
session or whatever you guys want to
Mr.
do.
Wilson? was
Yeah,
gonna
I
say
think-
something.
Because this will give us time to bring Dean
Get
up
up to
and
speed.
Correct. I think,
we'll ask some questions together to the formal.
I think to your point, Sue, and to Glenn's, I mean, safety and security are gonna be at the premium forefront. The how it gets done, I think if we have that piece of the contractor's element,
Mhm.
plus with our experience with what we have done currently in the building, it has been done prior to this situation, I think then we just have a more productive conversation in executive session saying, this is what it's gonna look like, but for everyone's benefit, which is okay to say in the public, safety and security is always gonna be at a premium, period. The how we get it done,
Mhm.
to your point, Glenn, we could talk about what we want and how it looks, and I agree with that, and I think handling it in executive session is just appropriate for the ins and the outs and the nuances that no one in the public needs to know, or be aware of, because it would hinder our ability to enhance safety and security that way. So I hear you, and I think that would be just a better fit for us to kind of get our stuff in a row with the contractors, and then come and have a good plan to lay out for executive
Yeah.
session.
So we'll put that on the agenda for next month. Let's kind of have a plan or punch list for secure portal.
You can cross that off my agenda.
Wait a second. Jeff
Moving
is
right
the only one who
along.
does that. Wow, Jeff. Sue's taking some thunder now. I don't know about that.
All right, Scott, I'm sorry, so rudely
You usually
interrupting.
pass things over.
So the next item is to resurface sidewalks at Torrington. So I walked these and like looked at them, and sure, there are some that are banged up by the plows and such, but I don't know if it's a high priority, in my opinion, and that 25,000 might be better reallocated somewhere else. But if I didn't see any real safety issues either, because that's why I wanted to walk around. Like if one was like, split in half or something, and it was a safety
Curbing is a
issue.
disaster.
Curbing is
curbing's
a
bad.
disaster.
Yeah, and separate curbing from sidewalks. I know the sidewalk on that lower level down in the playground. Okay, because it's kind of in a bowl down there and the salt just sticks where they replaced one of the catch basins. That sidewalk is where the kids walk across and go to the playground. It's pretty chewed up and it's got sharp edges because it's
Okay.
concrete that's, just my opinion. By no means do you have to listen to me. You can tell me to go pound sand, I could care less. but
Wherever safety
I
is
would
concerned,
say-
I just change my tune like automatically. So I'll get an RFP together and we'll send it out.
There are
And
some places where the sidewalks, as we walk the bus loop, are also not level. And obviously in wintertime, that becomes even worse, but it is, and there are a couple of places where chunks of the sidewalk are missing. So if children go around the columns that are there, that there's definitely a hazard there, so. And the curbing is a disaster.
We have Dean to look at this.
I would say let's kind of,
401,
I was
maybe
gonna say,
2, we'll see how that goes. Depends on the
Yeah. You're not going home Monday, right?
Yeah, Dean.
Walk around.
Number 59.
so thank you for the board's input on that one.
Yeah.
The next one is a Lock 4, which we could discuss next week, because we know the history behind this one, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll pass over on that. And I have an electrician coming out to look at the safety electrical receptacles. And again, if that's a pricey item, we'll put it out for bid. And I don't have any more detail. Other than that, I got to get an electrician there just to take a look. But I think I have some notes somewhere from when I spoke to John Barlow about those.
Did the other schools actually have the? I'm just thinking of the last time I plugged something in in Vogel.
I don't know.
Is this a? I guess just curious why the one school's on there, but
Petrus Alley thing.
They prioritize which ones. So the number ones got put on this.
gotcha.
Probably others, but they're not,
I'm not as
right.
We'll have more granularity on that one.
Tuesday.
Oh, Monday, Jeff.
And
Don't
did
give the
you,
guy a break.
the ADA compliance upgrades,
Yeah,
are we
I-
good with that? It was the entrance, the sidewalks going in, right, without the bumps at Torrington. I think that was one of the issues on that ADA, the second to the last.
No, I know which one you're looking at.
Okay.
I'm wondering if I have a note somewhere.
I think the bump thing was resolved when they moved the driveway.
Was it?
When the driveway was
Yeah, I'll
coming
check
across
on
the
that.
existing sidewalk, that was the problem, because when they did it, they didn't put the bumpy things in.
Mm-hmm.
Now that
They
it's
put 'em
curved
in?
out, it's not crossing that sidewalk.
It's a technical term.
I'll
The
follow.
bumpy things.
Yeah.
That's how we were told. That's how it stuck in my head.
I'll check on that.
All right.
I'll call them up and see if
'Cause if it's-
that was part of it.
Okay. It's not a huge amount of money,
So the
but
bumps on the sidewalk.
Those little yellow.
I was
Yeah.
wondering why there was 2 asterisks next to it.
I was
Yeah,
wondering the
that's-
same thing, Fiona, and I didn't see a coding for that. so
Yeah,
was
that's
like,
why I was looking for a
"Hmm."
note underneath it, but I might have it on another sheet somewhere. So that's it for
Great.
that list.
That's what I was wondering, what the 2 asterisks meant.
I'm sorry, just one question, I got back up a little bit. So on Southwest, we have engineer and install foyer. I had a note down here from last time that the contract was pending.
It was
Is that
ready to
contract
go.
pending for the engineering portion?
Southwest was, I thought, already decided.
Yeah.
Try to phrase this correctly for public. This was already decided. The plan was already in place, and we knew it was supposed to happen. In my head, remember that. I could tell you what it was.
So where?
I apologize if I
Yeah,
might have
by
misspoke
no
on
means
that,
Don't
but
apologize, but we're trying to put some pieces together, and that's totally fine.
yeah, I don't think it has started because I had conversations with the architect on other issues, on other things he's working on, and I specifically mentioned Southwest and Torrington, I believe. And he hasn't been doing anything with either one. And I just spoke to him yesterday.
I think to your point, Jeff, the recollection of, if I remember from last meeting, because you did recall it pretty vividly, I think it was discussed, and I know this was just prior, but I think it was discussed that those had to be done, and I guess maybe John had expressed that those were gonna be done, and there was a plan set forth to do them, and I think from the board's perspective, that was in the works to be done. I don't know, I'm just trying to fill in some gaps here.
Yeah, some of
So-
them like gave
Yeah,
us
I
some.
know,
Coming
it was
in
our
at the-
priority.
coming in at the same,
Yeah.
so not to say
Yeah.
that they weren't prioritized or they weren't done, I think, so when Scott took the piece on, and it's by no means being defensive at all, it's just to be real of what's taking place, is that when Scott is calling up for some of these, they're like talked about, but nothing in stone. So Scott's getting the stuff in stone now. So
Why don't we
to
do
answer
this?
the question, Jeff, and that's where Dean is going to come into and have to be brought up to speed on the in stone stuff. But I think, because I remember at the last meeting, your recollection was pretty vivid on how it was described and what had to take place, which I was appreciative of, and I think Scott was as well. But
It
on
may have
our
just
end, there
been the
was
description we
nothing.
got.
I think it's
Correct.
just that, not that it was in process, more it has been evaluated.
Exactly.
And we can talk about that in the executive session more,
Yeah.
but if there is a plan in place, it just hasn't not even
Let's
close
put
to being
those
executed.
two
Sure.
To see if we can get an update where we are, whether we got it engineered, whether
whatever
Already
updates
went out to
are.
bid and we got numbers,
I got it.
there's a
I got it.
contract. Let's get an update on that.
Yeah,
next
You know
absolutely.
what I mean?
Yeah,
Fiona?
I got the note.
I'm just wondering if it would be possible from a timing standpoint, if you guys could get this information and maybe facilities could meet for 30 minutes before the board meeting so that these things can be moved and not delayed
What's a move?
to start these projects.
Put it on the board's agenda.
All these other things?
Yeah.
Why
The
can't we
security
move them
thing.
now?
No, I'm talking about the security.
Like, we need to get updates. Shouldn't say we need, the question we should ask ourselves, do we want these updates before we move this capital plan to the full board? Because we'll have to vote on this at our October 25th meeting if we want things to start moving. Right now, we haven't voted on this list, so they can't start working on it theoretically.
Well, the board can approve the capital plan in its totality because all it is, it's not setting a timeline, all it is a budget. And then all of the other business that facilities wants to conduct relating to specific projects, we can still do as long as we're not going to completely destroy the timeline for some of these projects. But the board can approve the capital plan as a whole because it's
What
just a
it looks
budget.
like here, without an actual plan in place of how, I got what you're saying,
it's just
without
a
how
budget.
things are gonna be done.
it's a dollar amount.
I'm
Yeah,
but I'm
okay.
just trying to avoid there being any miscommunication about what the board thinks the locked foyers are gonna be and what they are. I think everybody should be on the same page on those
Well,
before.
to Ed's point, we're gonna move this to get this forward. Okay, and then we can discuss the individual line items as time permits.
And we can move money around later if something goes terribly wrong and we need to cancel a less important project to add more money to something else. This is this year's capital budget, right? Yeah, we're not talking about the submission to, so we already have this money and we can adjust how we're gonna spend it if we have to 6 months from now.
Gary had a.
Oh, Gary has a
Yeah, sorry, Glenn, I'm sorry. We need to get the architect in, and whatever he's working on, we should have him in. I know it needs to be executive session for security, but if he's working by the hour or by contract, somebody needs to define the scope so that he understands it and he brings back to us a plan that we can say yes or no to or add to. But he should be in the loop on some of these things with the board so he doesn't do it twice or three times. I don't know what to the extent he's thought about these things or he's gotten into any of these things, but it would save time if we could have an executive session to have him there and let him tell us what he thinks we need, and we can tell him whether we want that or not, or we're thinking of something else. Otherwise, it's going to take him a lot longer. It's going to take longer for us to get to a plan that can be signed off on, in my opinion. But something to think about.
With whatever.
All right, duly noted. Thanks, Gary. Okay, so with that said, Ed, what's the proper way to do this? Do we make a motion to move this to the board?
I'm always in dispute with Ellen and Fiona over whether or not subcommittees make motions and vote. In my opinion, they do. In Ellen's opinion, they do not. So it depends on who you trust.
Today.
Oh, jeez.
I trust
I might have to have him come in.
What did you say?
I trust that.
And we would move it to the full board, yeah. So I would.
Or unless anybody has any disputes or questions on this list, are you okay? Basically, the motion is everybody okay to move this to the full board for approval?
Yeah, I would think we move to the full board.
Well, here, second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Speak now or forever hold your peace.
We can't.
They can't speak.
We're not on your
Oh, it's only
subcommittee.
me, that's right, it's only me.
Yeah.
Sorry, my bad. All right. So topics for future meetings? For the tech, you're gonna get us a little bit more Chromebook data and break it down as far as, and with Jeff's 10-year plan, right? Facilities, roof, TMS. What do we move that forward?
We'll get a final update on the payments and percentage of the district enrolled in the protection plan, because we'll know for our next meeting. It'll be after the payments are due.
So you want an additional update for the?
Yeah, I'm sure Ally's gonna bring it anyways.
There'll be new numbers, more
Yeah,
money,
and we'll have the final, this is how it landed.
and no broken devices.
Yes. That'll be the next
So is
piece.
mine.
Yeah.
How many claims have we gotten and how does that stand against?
No, the pieces.
Right.
Insurance company.
All right. So Chromebooks and protection plan. For facilities, the TMS roof. Building capacity, we're going to try and get some more details on that, correct?
Yes, we will have a update on our recommendation to the board.
Recommendation that,
Yes,
you know,
that's correct.
how we're gonna move the chess pieces around.
Yeah.
Dean, your one action item is trying to see what you can dig up on that HVAC thing. And then we'll have an executive session for Tier 4.
Water heaters.
And Dean's gonna
Oh,
talk about
water
water
heaters, thank you. All right. Anybody have any other questions? Comments for the good of the order? Go around the horn here. Ed? Oh, actually, I forgot you. Fiona?
Just welcome, Mr. Pergola.
Thank you. Mr. Wilson?
Great meeting. We're excited to have Dean on board, and I think he's gonna do wonders for the district.
Mr. Scott?
All set, thank you.
Susan?
Good meeting and welcome. We're happy to have you.
Ally?
Great meeting. Welcome and looking forward to working with you.
Mr. Pergola?
Well, thanks for letting me jump on board and looking forward to digging in.
I'll set.
Keep you plenty busy.
Long Monday.
Welcome, Dean, to the group, and I'm sure we'll have a good first day on Monday, whatever time you make it out. And good work, everybody.
Ally?
Meeting, welcome.
Good meeting, welcome. They aren't always this easy.
Yeah, we're going easy on you tonight.
Josh, nothing to add? No? Oh, Gary? Gary left.
Thank you. Good luck, Dean. You got 2 minutes to sign off before John counts you on a 1 hour clock, so.
Until what?
2 minutes until John gets
All right,
the
motion
1 hour
adjourned.
clock.
Oh,
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
October 11th. Roll call, we have Ed, Jeff, Glenn, Gary's on the phone. Scott's here, and Melissa, you have the rest of the committee, right? Okay.
I don't know if we're live yet, are we?
And I'm here, Sue.
Someone's gonna call in.
I'm here, Sue.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda. Item 6D, capital plan spending should say 23, 24, and capital plan surplus is 22, 23. So Marissa's gonna make those adjustments, so if I can get a motion to approve, accept that change and approve it.
So moved.
Okay. All in favor? All right, approval of the minutes. Motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
All in favor? Josh, anybody on the phone? And then Gary and Lisa?
No, there's not.
Thank you. All right, 6A, monthly financials. Scott.
Yes, so I swear I have the revenue number on here. I do not know why it's not here, so if you could just bear with me 1 second so I could open up the file quickly.
Okay.
It's almost like you knew the next question.
No, just bear with me. I apologize. I'm going to show the superintendent so he knows I'm not lying.
Okay,
No worries.
I'm sure he trusts you.
I do.
That's all right, if you have the number, you can just,
I do. I have
Give
to
it to us.
open this file up.
I do know, Jeff, that was one of your questions from last month.
It was.
See,
I believe you.
I just said the right. So the revenue we've had year to date, fiscal 24, 23, 24 is $5,319.40.
And that's from the facilities revenue?
That is from the
Okay.
the
So
building
rental.
use monies that we've received
For this school year.
for this school year
Okay.
thus far. Okay.
Do we know what that money is allocated for?
When you say allocated for, what do you mean?
What can we do with that?
We could put it against the custodian
Overtime?
contractual overtime,
Okay.
but it's up
It's
to
up
you.
for discussion. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So when the time comes,
Yep.
if we need to pay, you know, I guess if everybody else is okay with this, you look at the bills, you see what's coming in. If something comes across your desk, you're gonna say, we could use this fund to pay this overtime to save money in the budget or whatever it might be, right?
That's correct.
So we don't really need to worry at that level.
The natural correlation is the custodial correlation, just because whenever we rent the facility out, custodians
They
are the
have to
ones
be
who
there.
feel the brunt of it. So it helps offset our line item because they're there anyway.
Right.
So that's just the natural attrition. But I do appreciate you sharing that. I mean, if we realize we can use it somewhere else, then
Sure.
obviously we would allocate it somewhere else and share that with the board. But the custodial one is really the one that takes the biggest hit with
It
any time we
does.
rent the facility out.
Is refinishing floors considered a capital? Or is that, they were doing them internally themselves for a while? We just had a discussion at a prior meeting about some of the facilities that we rent out having floors that need to be redone and things.
Those aren't capital.
So we had talked about using some of that money to cover the overtime expenses that are allocated to that facility use and to help maintain those facilities so we can continue to rent them. There are a few examples that we talked about.
Yeah, if we get the revenue to do that. You know, I guess I think it depends on the types of organizations that we're renting to, because we're not making money from our nonprofits and from the kids and those programs. So maybe by the end of the year, if we do have something we can use.
Like the middle school stage that we looked at last year.
Okay.
Well, that number is going to be on every month going forward, I
All right.
promise. And it'll be a running number, so we could see it accumulate, and then the board could decide what we want to do with it.
Okay.
So I do have some line items, if we go to the 5-pager that I'll point out, because that's the one we seemingly we go through. So I just want to talk about a few things first as we go. So the first one that just sticks out if we're looking at the percentages of the behavioral therapy is on the first page, 5112.27. It looks like we're 71% spent. So I just have to go in there because it's just a reclass that has to be done there with our behavioral therapy. I think some people are coded wrong and that are going there. So I just have to look at it and reclass it, and that number will come back down to where it should be.
Okay.
So that's really all I have on that page. If we go to the next page, I know that the question of OT wages, clerical. So I just want to speak on that for a few minutes. So we had a lot of transition and a lot of jobs moving, people that were in the schools coming here, new positions here. So we had to, so we probably used more overtime than we had budgeted for, or that we had thought last year when we put the budgeted amounts in. I actually go back 4 years. I have a 4-year running total, and 3 out of the 4 years we did go way over budget and OT, but we've tempered it down. I've had a discussion with everybody, so we should just be seeing that should be a normalized going forward. So
Which line
we
item
shouldn't
are you
see big-
referencing, Scott?
I'm sorry, that's on page 2, 5130.30 OT wages clerical. Looks like we're 75% spent, and we're only a couple months into the year. And then if we go down a little further,
1 second, Scott, Ellen
Yep.
has a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
To that.
Yeah, so you feel that we'll be within budget or close?
I'm hopeful. Yes, I'm hopeful.
Okay.
But I'm approving all overtime now, so that
We're
might have,
You're watching it.
so we're watching that closely. If we just go down to and this is, I thought we might have a new member here, but the retire insurance, the 5280, just to point out, that's the 86,000 is going to go down month to month because that's the retirees coming in paying for their insurance, right? So that goes down throughout the end of the year. Miscellaneous professional services, if anybody had a question on that one, we had the shredding service come in, and I guess we have them come in the fall to get rid of everything. So it looks like we're spending more than we budgeted, but that, we shouldn't have any big ticket items in there going forward. So that was really, our shredding services, a big truck comes in and shreds a bunch of stuff. So if we turn the page, I know Sue, or somebody brought this up, if we go down to sewer, 5411.01.
Oh, yeah.
So I pulled, so this is a mystery to me, and I actually have to go over to the town, I think, because what I did is I pulled last year and I pulled this year. And just a couple examples, if I look at Forbes, just on the usage, not on the dollars, I could quote the dollars, but just on the usage for Forbes, we had 377.5 thousand charge units. And then this year, we have 735.7.
What?
Exactly. Vogel Wetmore was 288.9 thousand. This year, it's 1.1 million.
Oh, my gosh.
The middle school is 129,000. And then this year, it's 1,765,000, and it just goes on and on. So, number one, as I don't know, the tax collector or somebody there.
Probably water pollution. The guys who are in charge of the meters.
Oh, it is,
sewer.
isn't it?
Yeah.
What is the increase in water?
The new sewer plant.
Sewer bill usage, sewer use bill.
So they don't dollar
How do they charge?
Well, they're doing.
I have no idea. So,
By the gallon.
Hold on, too many conversations.
sorry.
Ed, go ahead, sorry.
Hey, Ed.
It might be worth looking, someone just mentioned the new sewer plant. So the city council functions the Water Pollution Control Authority, which I think is the governing body that sets the sewer rates. So they may have taken a vote
They did.
to up the rate, which may explain our issue.
Well,
There was
It's
an
not the
increase,
rate.
but it's
They
not the
did-
rate.
It's not the rate.
Right, they did increase the rate. No, so they did increase the rate from 346 per 65,000 charge units to 392, but it's the usage that went up
The
exponentially.
flushes?
It doesn't make sense.
Volume.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so they think, okay, I see.
more
They're saying
exit.
there's a lot of volume flowing through from,
Like
okay.
more than double and triple
I
from
don't think our
prior
food
years.
quality's
Yeah,
good.
so I'll make it
And our food quality's gone up, maybe that's the problem.
so I will go over there and just, find out what's going on with that, so.
Okay,
um,
so do you think he has to go to city council, you're saying?
No, it's
Oh,
a
okay.
city
Professional
hall,
staff
right?
Who handled it.
Oh,
I'm
alright.
just saying
Okay.
the council is the one who sets the rate.
Oh, okay, all right, sorry, I misunderstood. All right, so we'll keep an eye on that.
Okay. Athletic rental 54405, that's just the Y went up a little bit more than they thought. They couldn't get lifeguards, they had to pay them a little bit more, so that's why that's a little bit over budget.
Lifeguards at the Y?
Yeah, athletic rental, when we do the,
Aren't we under contract with them though? Can they?
We have to pay extra for the lifeguards?
every year it goes up.
Oh, they just gave us our rate. Okay.
Yes,
So does that mean that athletic rentals is done for the year?
yes,
Okay.
shouldn't move. The sports complex was 360 over, the next one down, but that's just because it came in at 6,360 and we budgeted 6,000.
What exactly is that? Is that the?
I know what that is too,
No,
yes.
isn't the turf, the
The turf.
200,000?
No, that's the
This
200,000.
is just for the annual
The maintenance.
maintenance of the turf field.
Yeah, the demagnetization and stuff.
Yes.
Okay.
The transportation for summer school, we had, that's a couple more down, 551001. We had budgeted 50,000 and it cost us 52,952. So if we flip the page, if we look at the top number, the 553005 licensing and warranting contract. So what has happened there, we're really not over budget 124,000. What we did is when we sit and did the budget last year, we sat down between IT, Ali wasn't here at the time, with IT and then with Sue Ferguson, and between the two departments, we kind of put things where we thought things should be. So the offset to that is in instructional supplies at 561001 at the bottom of the page, which looks like we're under budget by 201. So they're kind of canceling each other out, which they should. What I do have to do is I have to go in because somehow the POs got created with the licensing and warranty account number when it should have had the instructional supply account number. So at some point, that'll be a little mini project for me to do because it's going to take a couple days just to go through and make the reclass there. So
You have to do that?
yes. So I actually want to do it
Okay.
for a number of reasons, but
Okay. Dean, did you have a question?
No, I don't.
Okay, sorry, all right. Sorry, Scott.
no, that's fine. So those are really the only ones that I wanted to call out. If anybody has any other line items, I'd be happy to speak to them.
I do not.
I have
Jeff?
just one. The paraprofessionals line item in the beginning, it's like 11% usage to date. Is that,
What page in the?
it's the very first one on his report. It's,
Tutors?
no, it's 50.
It's 5112.01. Yeah, you're keeping me honest there. I noticed that, and I really have to look at that.
So I
because-
wasn't sure if that's because we're not fully employed in that department, or if it could also be that teachers can opt to take their salaries on a 12-month schedule.
Yeah, and that's part of what it's doing, and
it.
you're right. So the pairs weren't getting paid until really school started, and
So I figured it could have been, I saw that and I wasn't sure if it was that, or if we just we don't have the full amount of pairs yet, or.
I'm 99% sure that's all it is, and as we move forward, it'll normalize, but it'll only take me a little while to look into it, so I have it marked down just to check it out, so.
Thank you.
I thought as there were, in our, what month are we in? Maybe the August meeting, there were still some para positions that they were trying to fill, so that could be, I thought Kim had mentioned that.
Knock on wood, we're good right now.
Oh, good.
As of
Yeah, that's why
yesterday-
we're,
They're all filled?
As of yesterday, we
That's
just have one
fantastic.
position left to fill.
Great.
I've been using 5111, the 01 and 15 is that's the percentage we should be at for almost all things that are contractual throughout the year, because that's over the course of 12 months, right? So we're about 26% of the way into our budget cycle, because you've got July, August, September, right?
yes.
So
Yeah, I
25,
think we'll
26
see that
is,
next month with the full staff. I think we'll see the difference. The percentage will be close to the 26-27%.
yeah. Thanks, Scott.
That was it?
That was it.
Fiona?
Next month, can we get a breakdown of what 5580 and 5580?
Sorry, Fiona, I didn't.
5580 and 558001, like a breakdown of what would fall into that?
Of course, absolutely.
Gary, did you have anything, or Jason on the phone? Put that in the note.
I'm all set, thank you.
Any more questions in the room? Scott, thank you for, I think that's the best way to do this, because you know what we're gonna ask about every month.
Okay.
The ones that are, the percentages that are off the chart, so for you to just go through and tell us an
that was great.
explanation, it saves a ton of time, right?
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.
You covered everything that we were gonna, except that
Yeah.
one you wanted more clarification on, so.
It was great.
Okay, where are we? Monthly financials, okay, the capital plan spending 23-24, Glenn covered. Thank you very much, Glenn and Scott covered in facilities. So that's all set. The capital plan, this one was really just a question to find out if the surplus had been transferred yet from the city.
So the letter was sent, there's severely short-staffed over there, and I'm waiting for the comptroller to connect with, I'm waiting to
When
connect
was the
with the
letter sent?
comptroller. Recently,
Like in October?
in
Or-
October.
Okay, all right.
But, yeah,
It's in
I've
the
been
works.
asking- no,
I just
full disclosure,
was
I've been
curious
asking
of
for-
Where the delay is.
I've been,
I think
it's on their side. I've been asking for a balance in our capital reserve, and we just haven't connected to speak with that. Now, I thought we have a meeting with the mayor on the first week of each month, so if I don't get a response, I'm hoping that we will have that meeting the first week in November, and that's number one on my to-do list.
Okay. So aside from the transfer of the surplus from last year, is there anything else that we're waiting on from them financially?
Nope, not that I'm aware of.
Right. All right, so that money we're using for the whiteboards and equipment to roll them, correct?
We earmarked it for technology, correct? We said capital, please put this in capital reserve per the board's request with the earmark for technology specific.
And the
And then we could go
200,000,
through all of the other, what we needed, yes.
the 200,000 for the turf field and the balance for IT projects to be
Right.
determined
Yeah,
later.
I knew the 200, I kind of took that out of my head a long time ago because it was always just going to go to the turf, so.
Yes.
All right. So we'll keep an eye on that. I would imagine if you have the meeting with the mayor the first week in November, we'll know.
We're hoping,
Right.
and we'll ask as well.
Secure foyer bids, Glenn and Scott, thank you very much. We covered that in facilities.
Sue, can I have a question on that real quick?
Sure.
One of the discussions at a previous meeting, I remember hearing that the middle school lockboard was going to be done this long weekend. Was that something that changed? I remember at a previous meeting, it was talked about that they were going to be working over the long weekend, and it's my understanding of walking in the building, that hasn't changed.
It did change. We're shooting for Christmas break to have that happen, Jason.
The date did change, yeah.
Okay, I hadn't heard that, and I
For the
was
longer window.
anticipating a new way to get in the building on Tuesday, and that wasn't the case, so thank you.
He's at TMS. Yes.
All right, the next item E, the audit results that came from the audit firm that was done on behalf of the city and the Board of Ed. We all received it. I don't know if everybody had a chance to look at it, but I think we wanted to have a discussion about, and maybe it's a full board discussion about the outcome of the audit and if there's anything that we need to look at.
So could that be forwarded to me? I didn't receive a copy. I'm not sure if that's something I am privy to.
Information.
Okay, yep, absolutely.
It's on the website too.
It was posted.
Oh, okay.
on the website.
City's website,
On the
not our
city's-
website.
Check the city's website, Jason, if you want to get it now.
They don't post their own budgets.
No,
They'll
they
post
post
the Board of Ed audit.
Yeah.
Marissa
you.
will send it to you, Jason.
So
Thank
the,
you.
So I want to just clarify for my own educational purposes. When you're making a purchase from here for the board, if you need money moved, you don't have the authority to move that money, right? Do you move it or does the city move it? If we want to make a purchase, let's say we want to buy a truck.
yes,
And we need the funds to do that, you have to go to the city, ask for the funds, explain what they're for to get them, or you can just buy the truck?
no. How it works now, so each year we come up with a budget, right? So this year we have a budget of whatever, $76 million, or, sorry, I don't have
78, I
my,
think.
thank you, $78 million. And we have expenses, so we create a purchase order, it goes in the system that we have called New World, and then we approve it. And then what happens is these are all back office kind of terms, but then a journal entry happens,
Okay.
and we have a general ledger with all these funds, and then it debits this fund and then credits like, I don't want to use the term city fund, but like a city fund. So
Okay.
every time, like every week, if we do $10,000 worth of expenses, I'm not calling or sending a note saying, hey, I have $10,000 in expenses, can you approve this?
Yep.
It's just a function of the systems talking to one another,
Okay.
saying that the Board of Education and their 5100 fund, or a grant fund for that matter, working with state funding. So
Okay.
trying
So,
to keep it high level, but
yep, all right, so you're initiating the transactions here.
yes.
From a budgetary process standpoint, if I may, I mean, I don't know if that's the crux of your question.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, obviously, unless it's different here,
Yeah.
which I don't think it is, because statutorily it shouldn't be.
Okay.
So the board has an approved budget, and as you know from way back in the day, the superintendent presents the budget, the board then has the budget, becomes the board budget. Once those funds are approved by the city and it comes back to the Board of Education, the executor of the board of budget would be the superintendent and the designee and the team. So for item funds, so for example, to answer your question, so if I know we're running low in 5210 and I need to move it into 8210, we can do that. Obviously, the budget subcommittee would be made aware because you're going to see the transfer anyway. But then it becomes, why did we do that? And it's because, as Scott mentioned in one of them, it's more of one of the items has to balance out with the other, and he has to look at that. But let's just, I said, we're going to wipe out 5210 and put it into 8210. We can do that unilaterally.
Okay.
But obviously, we would always inform the Board of Education. So I don't know if that answers your question from a systemic approach, but it could be, we can do that internally with the approved amount of the budget as long as it's not an exceeded amount.
I think just to clarify, I mean, so the city has access to our accounts live every
100%,
day. They
sure.
can look at everything we're doing. They can see what we're doing. They can see what checks are going out.
Yes.
So
I don't know if everybody can, but certain people
the
can.
comptroller's office.
Yeah. But I could
So
see
there shouldn't be any
theirs.
surprises.
I have the same
because-
access as her.
To theirs,
Right. No, we don't have access to theirs, but they have the same access Scott does to ours.
to ours? Yeah,
Well, he can see theirs, I see.
You can see theirs?
Yeah.
Oh. That's new. You must be good.
But if to just add on, if we exhausted all our budgeted funds, and still had expenses, we would have to, at that point, we would have to go back to the city and
So
request more money.
Sure,
But
okay.
that's the only time.
But then it falls on the board statutorily.
But that's never going to happen. So
Right,
Hence why we wouldn't just unilaterally move one item to the next.
okay.
But yes, we can. I mean, those are all I don't know if that was your question, I'm sorry, but yeah.
It touches on it for sure.
Yeah.
It clarifies the process more. Did you have anything, did that answer your question when you were just saying?
No, just I
Okay.
think there was a lot of confusion during the entire budget process of surprises of what we were doing, but all of our information is out there, transparent, accessible. And I believe my reviewing of the audit, I think a lot of the things that were said during the whole budget process turned out to be not completely factual. And we really barely have anything in the audit.
the only, do you want me to say the only thing?
Yeah, we have.
The only thing we had in the audit was prior year, if you remember, the 200,000 for the turf field was just journalized the way my predecessors thought it should have been journalized. And we just worked with the auditors and the controller to put it into a fund and earmark it for the
Categorize
turf
it.
field. So
it's obvious, right?
yeah, so it wasn't even,
So there were
it
really,
was so minor, but
Right.
that's it for the Board of Education.
There was nothing in there about a vehicle or any of the other
Nothing.
things that were thrown out during the budget cycle. And I just think that's important because I think everybody did a stellar job and that was the only thing that was pointed out in the audit. So we were not at all responsible for the long delay in the audit.
And the audit,
or misusing
Misusing.
funds.
the audit, the complaint in the audit, the major finding was that $200,000 transfer without the Board of Finance. But we were in the meeting. That's a kind of topic that comes up. I don't think anybody could deny the fact that topic came up.
Yeah, there was several
meetings about it.
all the time.
So to your credit, the fact there's no other findings, everybody, job well done here at the Board of Ed. But that finding was strange, that it was a major finding, according to the report.
Right.
Yeah, I just want to say I both feel and am entirely vindicated in calling the mayor a liar, because that's what she is when she lied to the public about all the things she claimed the Board of Ed was doing that were nefarious. We have done none of them. So just once again, for the record and for everyone's benefit, Mayor Carbone is a liar. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we haven't gotten any information yet as to when the auditors will be coming out to present these findings.
That was the other thing too, because we were, I think you and I both might have been on the phone for that Board of Finance City Council meeting where they discussed, or City Council meeting where they discussed inviting the City Council, Board of Finance, everybody but the Board of Ed. So I don't know what we need to do to be part of that meeting. Do we need to contact it was our audit. We paid for 64% of it. So I think we should be able to participate in the presentation of that audit.
We had to ask for the report to be sent
I've just
to
been
us.
watching the agendas.
Well, we
so
got
when
the
it comes on
report.
the agenda, we'll see.
I'm happy to just show up and sit down.
Well, we could show up, but there won't be public That won't be, anybody
Just
won't
down
be
at
able
the
to speak.
table, just start talking. What are they gonna do? Have you arrested?
Well,
You paid for the, well, not you, we collectively
We
paid for
did.
the audit.
right,
But I also think, if I may, I think that speaks volumes to the fact that there wasn't anything major from the Board of Education.
right.
If there had been something, and Scott and I had talked about this at length when we got the report, and I actually talked about this with Fiona as well. If there were numerous things from the Board of Education standpoint, then 100% they would have had to come and do a presentation. The fact that there was one that could be argued and has been argued that shouldn't have even been there because it was a transfer, I think that speaks volumes to our process. But to your point, understandably, yes, there was money spent on it and there should be a report given. But I think when the report comes favorable,
Right.
and I don't want to speak for auditors, that is not my job, but I think that they're not of the ilk then to come out and say good job,
Right.
as opposed to come out and say, let's talk about these 4 or
What
5 or
needs to
6
be-
things that you could do better and have to do better, or else you're going to keep getting cited. So I actually think of that as the positive piece in all of this.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But I
Just
understand
count
the
our
fact that
blessings and move on.
well, from an auditor standpoint, that's how I would take it. When no news is good news, if they call up, that's when I always get a little, how many did they find? Because they're not, in my experiences, going to come out and have a meeting about one thing that we obviously know shouldn't have even, we could argue couldn't have been there. Not going to say the auditor shouldn't have put it there, that's not what
Yeah.
I'm saying,
Yeah.
but could be argued the other way. So I think from a purely mathematical auditory standpoint, I think we're okay.
Pretty good.
But I think if we pay for it and want them to come and explain it, I think if that's the board's wish, then we could certainly, Scott could definitely reach out to the auditors and say, moving forward.
I mean, it's just
I don't think having a separate presentation is necessary at all. I just think that out of, consideration and respect for another committee in the city,
100%.
one that pays most of the bill,
Understood.
you would think that they would show some respect and invite us to that meeting. That's all.
Gotcha. No, understood.
So,
We'll keep looking at the
Just
agendas
world.
and when
Yeah.
it's gonna be posted. I'll let
and keep it,
everyone know.
okay, and Marissa's always looking anyway, she sends us the agenda, so.
So there's always public comment at the end of the meetings, it's just in person, so.
There wasn't at the end when we went to that last board of finance meeting, there was no public comment, right? Not at the beginning or end.
They
This should be
removed it,
city
She shut us
council,
right out.
so hopefully there will be.
Ellen?
You would know this, so, but someone on the city council can request a public comment?
Well, it's affixed to their agenda. That's the problem. The mayor sets the agenda.
So that they can't request something be added?
At that point.
Right,
Not during the meeting.
Right, they can bring it up, they can bring things up on their own. There's a portion of the council's agenda for business from council members. So at that point, they have the right to be heard on whatever it is they want to be heard about, but that's for council members. So they wouldn't be able to give their time to a member of the public or anything. But because of the way their agenda is structured as business from council members, they have the absolute right to be heard on whatever it is that they want to be heard on. So if somebody were to speak to that friendly council member about the things they think should be addressed, that council member could certainly do that.
And that council member will.
It's not a legitimate point there either.
Yeah. All right, summary of student activity funds by building, thank you.
Yes, so I handed them out to you.
Yep. And everything, I know last year we had, there were some issues with one of the buildings, had to spend down. So you've been watching it, we're not gonna, I wouldn't imagine we're gonna run into that issue again, right?
No, I actually spoke to all the schools other than the high school and, went through each line item with them. So I have no concerns at this point. If any of the board members want me to follow up on any line item, just please let me know.
I just have
I have a question.
Marissa, can you send me that report, please?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Jason.
I did not get a copy of the account.
Can you send him a copy of that? The question I had was, and then we'll go around the room. Are there any of these funds that can be used for some of these big trips that are coming up? Washington, the DC is always one of them. That's a big one. As far as, the kids are doing fundraising and things like that, but I still think that families struggle with being able to send their children. And we've talked about in the past, is there a way that we can sponsor some kids to go? So I'm just wondering if any of these
funds have discretionary dollars that can be used for that. And that applies across the board. I'm thinking of the high school trips that are coming up this year, next year, and even the year after. I think we just got someone sick for 2 years out. Just, you don't have to answer that right now.
No, I just want to understand. So are you talking about the scholarships?
Not,
From the
any
high
kind
school?
my question is general across all of these funds. Are there any of them discretionary to be able to sponsor a student or two to go on some of these more expensive out-of-state trips?
Like she's talking about, like, for, so.
Yep, I mean, my-
Washington, can we take from any of these items to help?
I will check on that, but my initial comment is the principal fund, I think
Oh, okay.
is
You can
delineated as a discretionary.
Okay, and each building has a principal fund?
Yes,
Or
I
is
think.
that-
The middle school's only got $623.
And that's the one, that's the big trip
Yeah.
that we're talking
Right.
about.
Yeah. How does that, sorry, Jason, 1 second. How does the principal fund get funded?
So if there's funds left over for something that hasn't been used in years, we just
Just put it in
consolidate into
there?
the principal fund.
Okay, Jason-
Plus,
Jason,
I can add.
plus what?
Plus, I think from fundraising and stuff, if they don't
Okay.
have it earmarked for a particular fund or something,
And the
whatever,
particular event or whatever it might be that they're
it will go into
fundraising
the
for?
principal fund.
That fundraising, the elementary school PTOs take 1/3 of the district-wide fundraiser. So that pie fundraiser that's going on, 1/3 of the proceeds to that, you get a check written to the principal funds for the elementary schools. The principal funds used to actually do their own fundraisers, the various schools, to raise money. Now the PTOs do it, they work with us. So they get some of the money from the PTOs to fund their principal funds. That's probably why it doesn't happen at the middle school, because middle school-based fundraising is more student-oriented.
Right.
Because it's for those trips, they raise money for their own trip,
Yeah.
rather than at your elementary level where it's more broad enrichment based.
I think there's still students, I think, that have trouble with raising the funds, doing fundraising even for themselves. But it's unfortunate that there's only $600 in the principal fund. All right, Jason, go ahead before we beat this horse. What was your question?
Just actually a comment, as someone who was in charge of that trip for many years, and any of those counts that are basically like a club, it is the discretion of the person in charge of that club, and the people who run it to use that money as they so desire. So I believe a field trip coordinator could petition any of those clubs to allocate. Jeff, the middle school does not do individual fundraising anymore. That has gone to the wayside. It is now whole group fundraising that is equally distributed. A lot has changed with that trip in the last couple of years. It is not individual based, where we used to do the fundraising over the 3 years of their career at the middle school. And I would keep copious records of how much each child earned. Now it's done as a group and spread equally out amongst those going.
Thank you, Jason, for the clarification.
Yeah, so it's my understanding with those accounts, there is a person in charge, and those are generally part of a group of people, and it would be up to their discretion how that money was to be used. And I assuming that anybody could petition any of those groups if they have a large amount of money to sponsor a child or something along those lines. I could imagine that would be acceptable.
Another thing, if someone was willing to put the legwork, but when I was on the PTO a long time ago, when we used to do the nature's classroom in fifth grade,
I
we would
remember
write
that.
out to businesses to sponsor a kid, and we always got really good support back because it was, this is the amount, this is for one student. So people were a lot more willing to do that. Like, okay, I'll sponsor 2 or whatever. And we had really good luck with it.
We even had teachers who sponsored students to go on trips. In the 10 years that I did it, I had a teacher every year that asked me to find a child that wouldn't be going, that they would then pay for. So yeah, that does get out there.
Great.
It just needs the legwork.
Jeff?
Scott, the only accounts I see missing here are the PTOs, actually.
Yeah, well, they're not student activities, they're PTOs.
Oh, I thought we were
No, they
student.
are student
They're
activities.
They are?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I was-
Anybody that uses
I
our
have-
tax ID number is student activities,
I
so
would-
Booster
I would have thought
Club,
not to, so.
PTOs.
Yeah, we have to follow that rule for reporting. We send you the reports. I
Right.
just.
You know, I
didn't think of it.
I honestly thought they were a separate thing, so that's why I didn't include them in. Thought student activity was one thing and ex-student activity funds were one thing and PTO was something else, so my bad.
No big deal.
Next time.
Next time.
No worries here.
Class of 2023 still has money?
Is that the high school?
Yeah, almost $1,600.
Is that the designated where it's going?
Maybe that can
I
be
mean, they're
to pay for
gone.
somebody's trip.
Yeah, no, like I said, I haven't spoken to the high school and gone through their line items, but that would have definitely been a question.
They used to roll it.
So we'll find out.
What typically has happened in the past is you would write to whoever was in charge of that, and then they would designate where they wanted to go.
Great.
Or it would get split. One time it got split, the class that had money left over, split it up, or they put it in the incoming freshman's account to get them started. There was a process over the years that was
Right,
done
or
for that.
like-
Just a little
like-
history on this. The
County
reason that we're
trip.
doing this now is we had to clean up accounts going back to 1961, that classes left money, but no one wanted to touch it, but it wasn't designated, trying to locate. So we spent like a huge project trying to locate these people who could make decisions.
I believe it, because I spent a lot of time last year doing it. We did a lot
Now
of
we're
cleanup
like, all
last year.
right,
so-
no, when you leave, you gotta tell us where your money's going.
And I am very pleased to see there's no more lock fund,
Oh, but there is at the middle school.
For what
because
fund?
the middle school uses the locks. At the high school,
Lock fund?
yeah,
What is that?
there
If the
is
kid
out there,
loses their lock, they pay for the lock,
right.
and then the lock money used to
There was
sit in an
hundreds of
account.
dollars in it. Yeah,
Thanks
so
for
they
the work
cleaned
here,
that up,
Steph.
so that was.
Well,
Thank you.
No,
I just had one other question.
Go ahead.
Why do the music funds have so much money in it for next meeting? If you can, Forbes has a lot, Southwest has a lot. But then Torrington only has.
It's the instruments.
Yeah.
The instrument,
It's
it's the
instruments.
$50 instrument program. All the kids pay in the $50 for the instrument rental.
So
rentals,
is that
yes.
4, 5, 6 and not
It's
K
4 or
three?
5. Yeah, there's no
Or 4 or
K.
5 rather? Okay, so that-
K3 is your first instrument. It's the recorder, and that comes out of a budget line item. And then the 4 and 5 do our instrument rental program. Some of them, it's a first come, first serve. So if you're in 4 and 5 and you want to pick the violin, everybody submits their forms, and in chronological order of submission, you can rent from the district for $50, or if there's not enough instruments, you're sent off to go to George's Music or other community
But where
partners.
does that money go?
That money goes into, from what we were told when I asked, it goes into that music instrument fund, and they replenish things out of that fund.
Like what?
They buy new instruments.
They buy new instruments, and they
Or
fix, well,
reeds or
not buy
whatever.
new instruments, but there's repairs, like the strings and the bridges break on a violin, or the mouthpieces, or the case. They're usually repairing the instruments. Most of the instruments are older. Somebody else in the music department could surely clarify more than I can on this, but I just asked this question because Emily got her first instrument. She did the violin.
I was just gonna ask that same question.
Violin.
I saw it today.
Drums.
Is it a scholarship?
Is this a surprise?
But it's great that the district has recently expanded that offering of the number of instruments. It's a newer
Right,
thing
Right, yeah.
to make it more affordable for families. So it's been a good thing.
This is one other question.
Go ahead.
Just the athletic department, is that just what's been generated in gate receipts so far this year, the 27,384.84? I'm not looking for an answer
No, I
now,
got
but
you.
maybe for
Yep.
next month.
Yep.
Is just one other question, sorry, at the bottom of the page. two.
High school?
MT Conley, last row, is that a scholarship?
Yeah.
It is? Go
If
ahead.
I remember, all of these accounts have to have a carryover. If it's over a certain dollar amount, a form has to get submitted to Midgeon
Yes.
to carry the money over. And I believe the form has I think there's a request for what you're carrying it over
Yeah.
for.
Right.
Okay.
So I suspect you
Taking over
probably
certain
have,
dollar
I have
rather
a
than
few.
the research, you probably just pull the form and save yourself another mini project. I know you've got plenty of those.
All right. I'll start with that. Snow removal bids. So we have, thank you for getting us the information that we've been requesting. This week, we sent you a bunch of requests, appreciate that. So let's take a look at, let's see your, we have three. We have Gibson Property Management, we have R&R, who's our current contract is with, which, I use the term contract kind of loosely, only because I saw it, and it's like 74 pages of chaos. I don't know what else to say. And then we have a bid from Innovative Lawn and Landscape. So Scott, was there anything that you wanted to talk about with regard to the three submissions that we got before we go to the board? Or to around the room?
Sure, I'll give you my recommendation. So I went to all three just to see the machinery and everything they had, and I spoke at length with the Gibson Property Maintenance. They are in Naugatuck. The other two, R&R and Innovative, are local in Torrington. So I had a concern that they were in Naugatuck, especially with what's going to need to be done at the high school and what has been done in the past. Even if we don't get any snow at the high school, we have a area that water runoff or water is on, even if there is no precipitation. And sometimes they have to come back 2, 3, 4, 5 times a day and salt it and stuff. So, and generally they get there within like 15, 20 minutes. So, without skipping a beat, one of the partners said, well, one of our drivers is up in Torrington anyway, so we're going to have him there anyway. So we don't see an issue with that. So, I mean, they were the low bidder. I think they definitely have the machinery and the staff to accommodate it. Innovative is local, but he was at substantially higher in the $150,000 range. And then R&R, we know, who's been doing it for years now, came in at almost 200,000. I think any concerns I would have, we would go over the contract. I would have
Well, we
our
would draft a
legal.
new contract.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. So I think that would suffice any concerns I have. If anything was to happen and we had to, I like to think of the best and the worst case. So
Sure.
worst case, it doesn't work out. We have it in the contract, we get rid of them and get somebody else in there. So best case, it works out and we have a great relationship for the next couple of years.
I don't know, and we'll go around the room because we do have to move this to the full board for the October 25th meeting, but the concerns I have with Gibson is the fact that they're not local, for a couple reasons. One, I like to hire local.
Yeah, right.
Number one. I appreciate that their bid is 99,000 as opposed to 150 and 200, but I think they may, and I don't want to speak on their behalf. That's a 45-minute, 50-minute ride. They're in Wolcott or Naugatuck? All the paperwork
Naugatuck.
says Wolcott.
Naugatuck.
Okay, so but everything says Wolcott on their letterhead and everything
But
else.
their office might be in Wolf.
They have different areas where they have machinery and
Okay.
stuff. They have some of their machinery in Naugatuck and Wolcott.
So it's more like probably close to an hour commute. And I wouldn't want, I just think that the logistics around that, of having somebody from there have to sit in Torrington all day or have trucks come back for it, just doesn't make sense. That's my input. I want to hear what everybody else has to say. I do like the Innovative one and landscape, what I really liked about that was the map of where they're gonna put the snow. Each of our properties, they sent a map that was highlighted in red where they were gonna move the snow to. So I did like that. I checked some references, just to look up like that they, that they existed, but nothing crazy. So that's my thought. R&R, I think,
No, he had a good reputation, innovative too.
yeah, I don't know any of them. I don't. So I'm just going based on what we're seeing. Gibson looks great on paper, but again, it doesn't make sense to me to hire a snow removal company that's almost an hour away, when we have people that are here that, local that can do it. That's my thought. Ed, you have, go ahead.
Yeah, as I recall, certainly in the RFP, and I assume in the contract, we'll have something related to timeliness, right? I know in the RFP, it says you've got to be here, before the people arrive, this has to be done, sort of thing. So my thought on the distance would be, look, we have a requirement for when you need to have something done, and we call you to do it. And if they don't meet that, right, we have provisions to tell them, look, you need to meet it, or we have to terminate the contract, which would be, a bit of a fiasco. But the flip side there, I think, is they're otherwise eminently qualified and they're the low bidder. And that, I put a lot of weight on that. It's hard sometimes when we do RFPs to find a well-qualified low bidder. Usually we've got to go up a few notches to find somebody who can meet all of the demand. Can you remind me of roughly what we're paying now?
I wrote it down.
90, well,
No, I thought it was combined, in the contract it said that, but he came back to us for more money, I think 2 or 3 times just this year.
oh, that's right.
Kind of did some history. We started in
I can
99.
find it.
Looks like in 2019, he went up 27,000, and then in 2022, because of the reconfigured high school lot, he wanted another 38.
So
It's tough to tell by the existing contracts whether that
Can't
was.
tell by the contract. I had to go
bundled.
back through
It was a
minutes for
complete
the last
disaster.
2 years to get what extra money we
Right.
paid him.
So we'll get that squared away, but it sounds like, to me, and I don't want to be too aggressive, but it seems like maybe that business relationship has run its course.
I would agree with that.
So I guess my take here would just be, I would be content to take either Gibson's or Innovative bid. My preference would probably be for Gibson's, but I'm not really married to that.
Anybody else have any input?
Fiona,
Glenn.
you're on committee first. go ahead.
Then Fiona, Glenn,
Me first?
yep, then Fiona. and Jeff.
I got some concerns with the actual bid itself. The old one had, first off, the old one had referenced for Vogel Wetmore and the municipal lot across the street, and there's no reference of that currently in the current bid document. I don't know what the municipal lot actually is, if it's the one behind the YMCA. Does the school use that lot?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yes.
We pointed that out when we did when we took all the bidders around and said what they would be responsible for, and we did point that out to them.
Because with that
So I-
said, the guy that had his little red bubbles for where he's gonna put in snow, that lot was cut off. So I wasn't sure if they were even aware of that, or if that needs to be called out in our scope of work.
They are aware of it.
Okay.
Right.
Secondly, I know we have a bid bond, which is great, but is this a dollar value that warrants a performance bond? There was no verbiage at all around having a performance bond for this contract. I didn't know if that's kind of up to you guys, what you guys feel. It is a big dollar amount. There is some risk involved. I don't know if a performance bond is warranted or not.
Yeah, it was.
Ed said that's in here.
It's a requirement,
5%.
That's the bid bond.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
A bid- Performance bond is
Okay.
different than a bid bond. That was another concern. Did we lay out the payment terms in the new thing? Because we had the payment terms that were pretty much late. clearly defined, but I guess
I
that
think it'd
may be
have
in
to be
the, that
in
may
a
be
new
in the
contract.
contract.
You would outline the payment terms, yeah.
And we'll have anyone that the board wishes us to proceed with, we're gonna have our legal team draft a contract that is to protect our
Yeah.
interests. So while the scope of the work is defined, and there's obviously things we ask for in the RFP, just to protect our entity, we'll have our contract. Similar to what we did in facilities, having it vetted by the company. It just makes sense to protect ourselves.
Okay.
And I agree that we'll also have language in there with any company we go with if we're not happy with the scope of the work, that it is our right to part ways amicably and move forward throughout the process again. I mean, that does put us in a bind, unfortunately, if it is a snowy season and we're not happy after snowfall 1, and then we're ready to get rid of someone and snowfall 2 happens. So we just have to be cautious on that. And you know, obviously we will, but we expect the best because those areas need to be handled so that we can come to school safely. I mean, teachers need to park, students need to get off the bus. I mean, there's a lot that goes into that. So we will definitely have our legal send anything out before anyone signs anything, as long as whichever company the board goes with.
And the third question was, what was our initial thoughts on the term of the contract? Was there any verbiage in here, the number of years? Because I had a hard time really.
Represented
Oh,
3
3
Yeah, I'm
years. They
pretty
represented
sure it's 3 years.
So with that said, the 3 years, do they know in year 2, when the high school is open, that a lot of things are going to change?
They do.
So those numbers, where do we give them that information from? Because I'm not really even sure the building committee knows.
Well, I mean, when we were at the high school, we kind of pointed out what we thought it was going to be.
I mean, we
So
should give them a
they're
layout.
in agreement to not change their bid, their what they're charging us in 2 years, regardless of what the parking looks like at the new building? I wouldn't expect that. I'm shocked if that's the case.
Because it costs us a premium of $40,000 more for additional equipment to get
Just
snow
for this.
out of the pendant parking lot at the high school now versus the big old parking lot that was at the high school. The new parking lot at the high school when it opens is going to be smaller, but there's some islands, so that's going to be tough to navigate. And we got a road going around the whole school. I mean, if we're expecting them to hold a number for year 2 and year 3, they need to be aware of the changes, or else, oh well, we didn't know that, it's going to be another $40,000.
But in fairness to that, when Scott went up to meet with the companies, and I hear what you guys are saying about year 2 and everything else, when he met to meet with the companies and showed them where everything's going, they also had the ability to look at renderings of the new building project online, and any company who's going to put in a bid for 3 years should have done their homework. So our language in our contract, we're going to hold them to that price to not come back. So
Okay.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, there's
but
not a lot
us
of
being-
verbiage in there saying,
But us being the person who went out, right, if you came out to bid for it, knowing you have to do your homework, so to speak, right? I
Okay.
mean, well, you can't come back and say, and this, unfortunately, Dean, this would fall on you, but it's good that you're here. But the company can't come back and say, well, that's a new building. No. You click on our website and you see the new building there with all the renderings and every building committee. So I understand what you're saying. It's going to look totally different. But I think that's why these bids come in at, to the tune of 1.5%, 3%, 8,000, whatever the number is, higher each year. And when we have our legal draft something, that's going to be a non-negotiable. I mean, to your point with the other contractor, to keep coming back 2, 3, 4 times to ask for more money, then that's not honoring their piece of it. So we're going to have to do our homework on that. But these people were definitely informed. And, as I said, Scott took them up there. So if they didn't do that second layer of homework to look at those images and some of those renderings, I mean, I don't know what else to say. I can't speak for these companies, but I know if I were bidding on this job, I would have made sure I looked at that before putting any numbers on paper. But I hear your concern. I
a lot
get
of
it.
times you bid on something, you're bidding on what's in black and white on the words, and it's all, really, it says 7 schools.
Still going to be the same number
Still
of
be 7
sites, and they're
schools.
still going to be in the same locations. The bid's the bid.
Look what happened when they,
Exactly.
we had a 3-year contract with the previous guy, we changed a parking lot. Oh, well, I can't do that for that price, here's my change on.
And that's why I think that business arrangement has probably run its course.
That's gonna happen in any business, if there are changes or things aren't presented clear enough, you do run the risk of, those are my only concerns, and That's all I'm gonna say.
Goes the other way.
And to Ed's point,
Jason and Jeff and Dean.
I'm sorry, just
Go
one
ahead.
more thing. I'm kind of with Ed. I mean, Gibson is a low number. I'd love to stay with local people. But it is a big difference. Now, where is that threshold where, the local guy, I love you, but where is that threshold? I don't know.
Jeff, Jason, and Dean.
Sure. I'm with Glenn. $50,000 difference is if it's a 50% increase in the cost from the low bidder to the next. If they have people in town, or you met with them, Scott, I trust your judgment. If they have equipment out here already and they have the ability to service this, I would be surprised if they would have quoted us if we were the only people in the area, because it doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, it's a half an hour from now.
Well,
It's
yes.
half an hour, 35 minutes.
On a good day. I'm just worried about the commute, that's all. I just think we need to just take that into consideration.
I think if the difference in price, I'm going to throw a number, was $10,000, I would probably feel a little different. But at $50,000 and all the other things we can do with it, and we have an out.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you think about it realistically, and I'll wait because you guys have questions. Go ahead. Yeah, Jason, go ahead.
Two things. Number one, I'm not in the paperwork that I got, I'm not seeing a map. And one of the questions that I was concerned about, and again, I'm only to the middle school. I know that the current company plows snow to the little islands that are within the parking lot when we have a whole vast majority of property that we can move snow to, and we lose a lot of parking spaces. So in looking at that, the map, at least for the middle school, and I'm sure this happens at other schools, is the snow completely removed from those parking areas to the periphery of the driveways, giving us maximum parking. Also, are they only doing the parking areas and we're leaving the sidewalks and stuff to the custodian still, or is that scope of work changing?
My understanding is that this is just plowing.
Okay.
Our custodial staff handles the
sidewalks, so that
Yep,
won't-
and they do a great job at it.
Yep.
But I just
Yeah,
wanted to
so
make
that
sure
won't
that
change.
wasn't a change in the scope of the work.
Right.
Yeah, those inner parking lots, the snow currently gets put into the small islands that separate the parking area from the driveway through those parking lots, and it cuts off a lot of the parking spaces where we have a lot of land where the fitness trail is right now that snow could be moved to.
Yeah. I can go through my email and forward you the map off the top of my head. There were 7 different maps.
That would just be my only concern. And again, my information is solely to the middle school. I don't know if anybody else has information about how it gets cleared out at the other schools.
Thank you. Dean?
Yeah, just because we're in a unique situation with the school being built and it's not going to be a permanent change of scope of work, would it be worth breaking the contract up for 1 year or have some sort of adjustment because of the change?
From a legal perspective, that would be a term of a contract that they could come back with. But from a perspective of just respecting the RFP and the bid process of a 3-year process,
Yeah.
I would not want to do it in 1 year and then have to go, because then we would technically have to do an RFP again next year.
Okay.
So this RFP would only be for 1 year, and that wasn't what the scope and sequence was when we initiated this one. It was for 3 years. So if we change the terms, technically, then we'd have to reopen the bid to anyone who wants a 1-year contract bid, and then reopen it again next year, which would delay the process. And I mean, it is October.
Yeah.
You know, I just
Well,
get a
I'm
little
just-
nervous reopening a bid process. That would be my only, I understand the
Yeah.
concept, but to reopen a bid, to wait 2 more weeks to then come back, we're talking November-ish, and you and I could have some hairy mornings, Dean.
Yeah, to that. Definitely need to, John had his hand up, go ahead, sorry, then Glenn, and then Jeff had something else.
Just, do we have an explanation as to why there's so much difference among these bids? There's between the highest and the lowest, it's double.
Right.
Do we have an explanation for that?
And the farthest one away is the lowest, which that's why I'm a little concerned that they're gonna come back.
I don't have an explanation.
Okay, so nobody offered that they could offer this price because. Thank you.
Yeah.
I just had a couple of questions. One, it was hard to understand if they do the Naugatuck Public Schools or if they just do a Board of Education building. And I would be interested to know that just because from a timing standpoint, if we can do a late entry, we want to obviously make sure that we have a priority to get the, because when I looked up on the Department of Labor, the size of these companies, and it's possible that they don't have the most up-to-date information, but it didn't look like they had a lot of employees. So I would want to make sure if they're doing Naugatuck and Torrington, that they would have enough people. You know, if we're closed, it's not as big of an issue, but if we're trying to get a 90-minute delay or a 2-hour delay, is that going to be an issue if they, with their number of staff and doing 2 school systems? If they are doing Naugatuck, it wasn't really clear if they're doing all the schools or just Board of Ed building.
I don't think they are, but I'll find out.
Okay, just for the board
100%.
meeting, because for me, I would want to make sure, because I would hate for us to have to call school because we can't get plowed.
They would hate that too.
I would as well.
No,
Yeah.
Trust me.
And that's what, yeah, I mean, I just feel like that's a big risk that we need to all be comfortable with. Glenn,
I'm sorry, I got a couple other questions.
go ahead.
I don't know if I'm not seeing it, but in our previous contract, it said that the contractor also is responsible for all salt and sand. I don't see any reference to materials in here.
I did.
Yeah,
They
I
know
know
they're
that,
responsible.
I did see salt and sand. Innovative actually described the kind of salt and sand that they
Yeah.
use.
Yeah.
They might even do they make it themselves? Did I read that right?
Yeah, they have
Yes,
magic
They make
salt.
it
Yeah.
sell to other local contractors.
Yeah, could that be a reason why there's a big discrepancy? The guy didn't see it and he didn't include it.
No, they're all aware that they have to
it
supply.
on
Again,
there,
being
though?
aware
The
verbally is
aforementioned
one thing,
areas will
but being,
also be
you need to
salted
be
for car,
aware
pedestrian traffic.
here. I mean, it can't
It
be,
says it in the Gibson.
The aforementioned
I
areas
don't
will
care.
also be salted for car and pedestrian traffic.
the response says it. The Gibson one says that?
Under
Well, no, it's in the
specifications.
specifications.
On Gibson's bid, page 3, Glenn.
Let's see.
On Gibson? Not on
It
Gibson.
doesn't say that.
It just says that.
It's in the
every area is-
specifications
Yeah, it
of the
doesn't say they
bid.
have to provide it, but it says they have to do it.
Yeah, it's-
Wasn't there a year we got billed from R&R for extra sand? We had to pay another, like, because they didn't include that. It wasn't last year, it was the year before. It's just one of those extra bills that we would get from them.
Oh, this one has more information in it.
I think
I think,
we're doing their work for them, is my humble opinion.
Yeah.
And that we should issue them a contract based on their bid, and at that time, they should read the contract we propose to them, and if they don't want to sign it, they don't have to sign
I
it.
would
Right.
agree 100%, provided the
Exactly,
contract's
right.
gonna be ironclad, I'm sure, and that contract goes out
Right.
with much more complete. You are responsible for providing all of these things. They'll review it. Here's the timing you have to meet. Here's our out clause. And if you want to sign it, we will accept your bid. If you don't, we'll move to the
Right,
next
and they
bid.
should have their lawyer look at it for any of their exposures, and if they don't, that's on
Right.
them. Our job is merely to receive bids and accept them.
Well, we have to practice due diligence.
Well, and we have, in the sense that we've ensured
I'm
that
not
they've
saying
done
we
the
haven't, I'm just saying
Yeah.
that is our duty.
Yeah.
Jeff, did you have something else?
Some of the questions have been answered, but I just assume the contract's going to address, exorbitant amounts of snow removal. Like, we've actually had years you had to pick it up and take it off-site. I see that Gibson has, the push box and the bucket loader and things, but the bid spec doesn't necessarily, and nor does it always, go into all of the details.
And the bid spec does mention snow relocation will also be performed if necessary at the expense of the bid proposal.
It does say that?
Yeah, it says it in the back. I just wasn't sure if there's when the contract goes out.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you do the contract, there's limits.
That should be the same.
Well, we don't really get much snow now
He
anyway.
owns at least one.
Only when the superintendent interviews takes place.
Right. Yes.
Some schools get a lot more than others.
but, right, but things that are in this Go ahead, I'm
So
sorry.
the worst
Yep.
case scenario here is that we hire these guys and they sign the contract and it doesn't work out. And we have to go to another local vendor for the remainder of the year. Well, actually, I should ask, what happens if you get rid of a vendor midterm? Does that mean that you finish the year with temporary contract and reissue an RFP? Maybe that's important for the group to know, because I don't know.
You would do emergency, and if snow came while you were doing the process, you would have to do it as an emergency basis.
We'd have to do another RFP though?
We would.
Yeah.
For the total.
But if it snowed while you were doing the process, you would have to get someone in as an emergency basis.
Correct. Or you could agree emergency would be throughout the year and then RFP it for the following season. That'll be a board determination. I would not be able to make the emergency determination. I would say we can go with Jeff's plowing because it's an emergency and Jeff's willing to do it. But if the board agrees, then Jeff will be on for the remainder of the year. If the board didn't agree, then we would have to be stuck and
Find somebody.
continue to use Jeff while we were in the RFP process, which is just kind of muddy because he would have the job and try to bid on it while he's doing the work. It's
Yeah, it's
tough.
ugly, yeah.
My recommendation would be we do the emergency for the remainder of the season, and then at the start of the next season, you would RFP again, just for continuity purposes.
In which case there would still be a contract
It would still be a contract, 100%. It's just
with all this.
under the auspices of emergency, so we didn't violate any RFP procedural rights to go out to bid.
Ellen, anything? Did you have anything? So I was kind of hoping to move this, we do need to move this to the full board, but I feel like our chairwoman might be breaking a tie for the first time ever, or second time. I don't know, I don't get a feel for what we're not all really on the same page, I don't think, as far as. Gary texted me and said he is leaning towards innovative, only because of the distance with Goodson. The distance and the bid amount being so low.
Does innovative, I didn't think that they included taking snow off site.
Yeah.
It says that snow relocation.
Jason, do you have any thoughts on?
Snow relocation was in there.
My only concern with saying with what you were saying, Sue, is what is the crew that is coming from Naugatuck?
Josh.
And what is the time frame?
So, hold on.
Hold on, Jason, we can't understand
Your
what
voice
you're
is coming
saying.
out from the TV, not the microphone, so it's impossible.
So
That's max volume.
my
Okay.
one concern with you, same as you, Sue, is what is the crew that is coming from Naugatuck and how long are they in Torrington for? And what other facilities are they going to have to?
Wait,
Initiated the self-test. It's going to stop the audio.
hold on.
Perfect.
He's trying to change the.
You can just put it back.
Yeah, I'm trying to get.
Yeah, there's more room here.
I didn't get it.
Okay, that should be good now.
Jason, can you try?
Took it off my ear.
There you go.
There we go.
Took it off my AirPods. Maybe it's my AirPods.
No, it wasn't your AirPods, it was a TV. That's better. Go ahead.
Okay, so my only concern, same as you, Sue, is what is the crew that is coming from Naugatuck and what other facilities are they going to have to maintain on top of us? And, you know, the length of a storm, we start traveling up and down Route 8, we have gas price increases. What are we doing as far as gas price increases for commuting? I see the idea, the point in it's a $50,000 lower bid, but in the long run, are we going to get hit with not having a job done the way we want it done? And are we then going to have to be doing another search for a company that is going to do what we want them to do? So I agree, the $50,000 is a nice savings, especially from what we're currently paying, because as we're talking now, what we're currently paying is increased exponentially with our changing situation. And if there isn't something in the contract that holds them to that,
and I would say we need to look more closely to home.
What did we budgeted for 150,000, right? Yes.
I would have said one final thought, which is that a lot of these concerns are legitimate, but I also think that we are ascribing traits to somebody that we don't really know very much about.
Yeah.
My sense is just that their bid package was complete. Their references will be checked, but I imagine they are good. I believe that they could do the work, and most importantly, we have substantial savings if all of those things are true. And I guess my point is, we don't really have any reason to believe that that's not
gonna
true.
happen.
Right? There are lots of what if scenarios, right? I mean, I could throw out plenty. What if they get into a car accident on the way up the highway, right? And suddenly you don't have a dump truck to haul the snow. But,
Or plow. That's
but
a
if
very
none of
good
those,
point. What are we gonna do?
well, no. My point is there are millions of things that could go wrong. Many of them will be covered in a potential contract, and the rest of them, there's really no planning for it because somebody could just as well total their truck on the way down from Winchester Center.
Yeah.
I just think that the savings are there, and I think that the low bidder is very qualified. I don't want to get bogged down in sort of all
What
the
ifs.
possibles
Yep.
when there's $50,000 looking us in the face.
Yeah. Okay.
I have a budget question.
Sure.
So say we go with low bid and we have a surplus in that, could then facilities use that for additional snow removal equipment?
We don't have a surplus in anything. You know that.
Well, if we budget 150 and we take the low
Then that
bid.
goes to, we
That'll be a
didn't
capital.
get, we were cut off. We didn't get a budget increase this year, so we were short $3 million.
Okay, but we budgeted 150.
Right, so that 50,000, that's a salary. That's, I mean, we could talk about it. Definitely.
Shuts down
as-
pretty quick, so it was just a question. It's kind of a yes
I
or
mean,
no.
I know, I'm definitely not shooting you down.
Do we need better equipment for the guys to do the sidewalks? It's
Maybe,
still snow
yeah,
removal.
right.
That's really where I was getting at.
That would be capital, so we'd have to go to the city for a transfer to move that to capital to buy new equipment.
But the superintendent is control of the budget, so wherever the need is, the superintendent would decide. And let us
Tell me,
know.
or are you telling the group?
I'm telling everyone. I mean, that's my understanding. It's the superintendent's budget. Superintendent decides.
Where the money goes. So the question is to Mr. Wilson.
I knew it was coming back to me.
You were just
My
waiting.
knew that one.
We don't have a surplus of anything. That's gonna be my standard answer for the rest of the year. But, yeah, I think it's definitely,
Right.
if it's, yeah, $50,000 is $50,000, which I'm sure you already know where you could spend it,
Correct.
right? So I guess that's,
I think the other thing we have to be cautious of, Michael, I'm just gonna say this and then I'll let you go, is
No,
last year we
please.
had no snow. We don't, if we have a lot of storms, we may have to pay the custodians overtime.
Correct.
So we don't know any of that. Last year we were lucky because we had nothing,
Right.
but other years
This
we've
year we're
gotten
gonna get
hammered.
hammered.
Acorns this
And
year.
we paid an additional $40,000 for additional equipment.
Correct.
Which the guy never had to use.
That's where I'm going.
So I think there's a lot of
And you can use it with
unknowns.
his other.
yeah, you can use it with this new, whatever district he gets this year. That hurts. Go ahead, Jeff.
I'm for going with the ironclad contract. And if that brings out something that the bidder does not agree to, we have our answer, but it's not $10,000, it's 50. We have no concrete evidence to say that any of the other bidders wouldn't oversell their services because they're also answering a bunch of RFPs. So some of the concerns we have could happen to any of them. We're just assuming they're not. So I would be inclined to go with the low bidder in this case, assuming all the references check out. They're willing to sign the agreement, and that $50,000 also is a savings when we don't have any snow. And we've had years where you don't have as much snow, and that's just money back in the budget.
Yep.
That's my last
Okay,
piece to that.
all right. So,
I just have one other thing. I just think if we're gonna request a lot more information on Gibson, so like Innovative, I don't think they really have a big staff either. And we don't know what other, what big things they're doing. So I think if we're looking at that, we would need to ensure.
I don't
for
have
the
any more
two in
questions.
Consideration, you know what I mean?
I don't have any more questions for Gibson. Do we?
Glenn, you had to ask about, I think Scott made a note on the, what was the other bond that you asked about?
Performance.
It actually is in there.
The
It wasn't in this
performance- oh,
package, but it was
okay.
in the other one. There is a
Oh.
performance bond in there.
Okay,
I would just share that if, and it is the board's pleasure, if they wish for Scott to call any company, just to be full, transparent, and true to the process and the procedure of going to an RFP, you have to ask all three the same question. So if the question for Gibson is, do you have 37 workers? Then we have to call up Innovative, do you have 37 workers? They might say, I have 160. Great, that wasn't my question, but thank you.
yeah,
160 checks a box for 37, because we wouldn't want to be unfair to the process and have someone say you only called one because you had a bigger interest in them than anyone else.
okay.
So just in a matter of being fair to the process through the RFP, whatever question, and if the board wants us to ask 10 questions, that's fine, then all three companies would have to be the same chance to answer all 10.
So the question for us is, who will the budget committee be recommending to the board?
I think, first, do we have any questions that need to be asked? I don't. And so to answer Ed's question, maybe we could do a straw poll. It sounds to me like the recommendation of the board is going to be Gibson. Right?
That would be my vote. I don't.
That's the
Well, I think it'd be
majority.
two, right?
Well, Gary, I mean, and even though Gary's not
Gary
here
isn't
to
married
vote,
to either one, either. I
Right.
mean,
He's not
he's
here
going to
to
go with the
vote.
majority, right?
but
His-
in the spirit, he said innovative, and I think we should account for that.
Yes, and that's my initial is Innovative too. But I can be swayed either way. I'm not married to either one, like you said.
I mean, do we actually have to make a recommendation, or can't we just say,
Yeah.
you know, these three guys right here, they're the ones that are going to be utilizing and managing that
Then we'll have
contractor,
the
let them
same
make the decision.
conversation on the 25th
Yeah.
at the board meeting. Ellen
They
has
can bring their
My
recommendation
question is,
forward.
who does the business manager recommend?
Gibson, he told us
Gibson.
that in the beginning.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, he said that right off the get-go.
I missed that.
Okay. And Superintendent Wilson, your recommendation?
You know, after speaking with Scott and talking about all the companies, Scott spoke highly of Gibson just from a overall perspective of looking at the facility and talking with the people and having met with them. So I trust my team member and feel strongly about Gibson.
And Dean, lastly, you have to work with these people. I know this is kind of like
Yeah, not
right in
enough
your face,
information.
but
Yeah.
you'll go with what,
I'm gonna go with the.
Monday, 11:02.
yeah.
So Glenn, you have to make
Your
a
day's
choice.
getting longer.
Yeah, you keep going, Dean.
So Glenn, I think Glenn was leaning towards Gibson.
I think we have to go a little bid right now. If distance, I don't think really is a problem. If they can't make it here, that's not our problem.
Yeah.
Um,
We deal with it.
I don't know if there was anything in here, it's mentioned thing of, you know, response time of within 1 hour. I don't know if I saw response time in the new bid documents or not. But if they
We'll
don't
have
make it
to
in
build in
time, then
response
they
times.
have the out in 1 year. They have the choice of non-renewal by September 1st or something, if you follow the same verbiage in the previous contract.
Yeah.
They have the out not to sign.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna
Right,
say.
yeah.
Just because the board recommends moving forward with any company, that is correct. Once they see the
Right.
contract that we draft, they may choose to say, no, thank
Sorry,
you.
yeah.
In which case, we then have to come back to the drawing board and go with option 2. So you're
Which I think
100%
we can all agree
correct.
on. We have an option
Yeah.
too,
Yes.
if that happens, so.
Because they can say no, that is their right to do so.
Yeah.
So does that need another meeting, or do you just go to
Well,
second
that-
bidder?
Our full board, oh no, would we just go to, oh, that's a good question. We could give Superintendent Wilson the authority to just go to the next bidder. So we, God, please,
Well,
less
the
meetings the
board-
better.
The board.
The
would
board.
have
The
to-
board, not,
Right,
Yes.
not the budget
Correct.
committee, the board.
I think that
Full
would be an
board.
appropriate motion to go in that order, if said contract doesn't says no
Put that
to the,
motion,
yes,
yeah.
If the full board agrees that that's the route they want to go.
correct. And then you
On
would
the
just do
25th.
sequential order.
Right.
If company 1 refuses to sign for whatever
Mm-hmm.
reason, and we would keep it that generic. Because we wouldn't want to get caught in legal
Right.
terms, just whatever, for whatever reason, they,
Decide
Change of
not
heart.
to, yep.
then we would go with option 2.
Okay. You good?
Make a motion then?
Yeah, so it really is just making a motion to move the recommendation to submit Gibson Property Maintenance as snow removal company to the full board.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
All right. That's your agenda. Topics for future meetings. Hold on, sorry, I lost my agenda. There it is. All right, monthly financials. We're really covering B, C, and D in facilities, so I think we can leave it there.
I'm Debbie
That was
Downer.
a John move.
That was a-
I'm Debbie Downer, because the capital plan has to come to the board by December, to go to the city by December 31st.
All right, so
So
then,
budget committee should get
Should still have
24,
it.
25
capital plan. Oh,
budget.
that's why I had 24, 25 capital on here. So we'll do that for next month. So I wasn't kind of really going crazy.
Facilities has
You
nothing.
Yeah.
This-
All right, so we'll
December's
focus
gonna
on,
come
yes,
quick.
it is. So we'll
Right,
focus on that. We got through the snow removal bids. That was our big thing for this month. So off the top of my head, I can't think of anything else for future meetings, but we'll definitely talk through the month. Comments for good of the order, John?
CAFTA candidate meeting, candidate session next Wednesday at 5:30. And thank you for
Support
helping me
our
think
members.
of snow. I love snow. And
You know
it's
I
quite a
don't.
Neither do I.
Ellen?
Great meeting, everybody. Thank you.
Sandy?
I'm good, thanks.
Glenn?
No, good meeting.
Dean?
Did well, Sue.
Thank you. Jason?
Thank you all.
Thank you. Scott?
Also, thank you.
Josh? Sorry, Mr. Wilson. Mr. Wilson?
A good meeting, thank you.
Fiona? Ed? Marissa? Thank you. Motion to adjourn?
So move, second.
Let's go. All in favor? Aye. Motion to adjourn. 8:23.
All right, adjourn.